Hogwarts, The Return of Turmoil. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 226 Confrontation. Of course, Maureen didn't fall down. The moment he stepped out of the window, he cast a gravity reversal spell, stepped on the wall, and ran quickly to the 5th floor. He got in next to the broken window on the 5th floor. This was the suite of another company, where Alton and Lucas were fighting. Black and blue spells were flying everywhere, and the documents and desks were smashed by the spells, and the fragments flew everywhere. Maureen jumped in from the window in the corner of the company. There was a bookcase blocking the way, and neither Alton nor Lucas noticed it. Alton was using a pillar as a cover, controlling a row of chairs to smash Lucas, but Lucas smashed all the oncoming chairs. Alton took the opportunity to cast several stunning spells, all of which were dodged by Lucas. "You old man, you're chasing me alone, are you looking for death?" Lucas didn't leave in a hurry. He was not afraid. He was able to defeat several Ministry of Magic staff with a series of magic, which was enough to prove that he was not a simple dark wizard. "Lucas, where did you get so many dark magic items from? How dare you use them in a Muggle building? You will stay in Azkaban for a while." Alton waved his wand, and the desk behind Lucas immediately turned into a ferocious white bear and pounced on Lucas, but Lucas turned over and jumped out, defeating the white bear. He then used a purple spell to hit the pillar in front of Alton, and a black smoke suddenly came out of the pillar and grabbed Alton. Alton waved a shield in front of him to block all the black smoke outside, but at this moment, Lucas suddenly took out a black spike from his pocket. The spike was extremely sharp, with a black skull at the end, emitting a fishy smell. While Alton was concentrating on the black smoke, Lucas used his magic wand to touch the skull spike. The spike whistled in the air, rushed over, and shot towards Alton. The shield that Alton summoned with magic shattered and was scattered all at once. He stepped back 2 steps and quickly dodged to the side, but the spike was very fast. After shattering Alton's shield, it turned its head in the air and went through Alton's back. "Be careful!" Maureen shouted, jumped out from behind the bookcase, waved his magic wand, pointed at a glass trophy in the bookcase, and the glass trophy was immediately set up and quickly smashed towards the skull spike. Bang! The glass trophy collided with the skull spike, and the trophy was immediately shattered, but it also knocked the skull spike off its direction. Alton reacted, turned around and swung his magic wand, and a rope appeared from the air, rotating to tie up the skull spike and pressing it firmly to the ground. "Who are you?" Alton looked at Maureen in surprise. Maureen was wearing a hat and a mask, and he had changed his clothes. He couldn't see his specific appearance. He felt that the figure was too familiar, just like his grandson. But he thought that Maureen was still at home and it was impossible for him to come here, so for a moment he just thought that he recognized the wrong person. "Deal with him first," Maureen said in a muffled voice, and Alton didn't hear Maureen's voice. "Hurry downstairs." Alton shouted seriously, "It's too dangerous here." But Lucas just flicked his wand, and the skull spike that was originally trapped by Alton emitted a scarlet light, which melted Alton's rope and shot towards Alton again. Alton's wand summoned a sticky bubble, which trapped the skull spike. The skull spike was surrounded by the sticky bubble and soon couldn't move. "What? The Ministry of Magic sent a little kid to die? One old and one young? Is there no one left in the Ministry of Magic?" Lucas sneered and slashed a red light at Maureen. Maureen also slashed a blue arc of electricity in return. The 2 spells intertwined in the air, making a bang. Maureen felt the pressure doubled. His arc of electricity could not stop Lucas's spell and was bounced away. "Damn, this guy is so powerful." Maureen hit the wall and dodged Lucas's spell. He couldn't use spells to fight Lucas head-on. Even though he knew more magic than ordinary students, Lucas was obviously an experienced wizard and much more powerful than Maureen. Lucas could make several staff members of the Ministry of Magic like this. It's unacceptable that he didn't have some skills. "Asshole, you can do this too, child." Alton saw that Maureen was almost hit by the spell, so he quickly jumped over and fired several stun spells at Lucas. Lucas had no choice but to dodge. "Leave quickly, this is the job of our Ministry of Magic," Alton shouted, and he cast several purple spells. These purple spells spread out and went around from all directions, surrounding Lucas. Lucas seemed to be very afraid of these purple spells. He quickly rolled up a piece of table and chairs and surrounded himself to block these purple spells, but he still missed a spell. A purple light blade hit Lucas. Lucas screamed in pain, and a purple wound appeared on his arm. The blood from the wound was glowing purple. "Stinky old man, I underestimated you," Lucas shouted, and several black skull spikes flew out of his pocket. These skull spikes turned into shadows, brought a sharp whistle, and danced wildly in the air. They actually penetrated the wall and the table directly, flew out on the billowing smoke and dust, and shot towards Alton and Maureen like arrows. Alton built a wave of water in front of him, blocking all the skull spikes, but the skull spikes burst out a burst of black light again, melting the wave of water and continuing to rush over. The latest novel is published on the 69th book bar. "Empty dust," Alton shouted, and the magic wand rotated in front of him to outline an illusory white light. The white light was like a vortex, splitting out and whistling in the air, meeting the skull spikes one by one, rolling up all the skull spikes. Then Alton clenched his left hand, and the white vortex tightened all of a sudden, crushing the skull spikes to pieces. "Cool," Maureen exclaimed. It was the first time he saw his grandfather fighting with others. This white light was even more powerful than the crushing spell. Lucas's skull spikes were obviously not ordinary magic items, but they could not resist Alton's spell. "What are you talking about? Be careful. He has too many forbidden black magic items. This skull spike is made of dead body oil, so it's very powerful." Alton did not relax after destroying several skull spikes. Instead, he became more cautious, because from the time he chased Lucas until now, Lucas had used all kinds of dangerous and powerful magic items, and those magic items had caused Deadman and his friends to suffer a lot. Alton was old after all. He had been chasing Lucas for so long, and he had already consumed a lot of physical strength. Not to mention that the more powerful the spell, the more physical strength it consumed. He couldn't continue to cast this kind of spell. However, at this moment, Lucas suddenly sneered, and there was a black stone in his hand. Maureen's pupils shrank, and he recognized the magnet, which was a magic magnet that could attract everything. "Be careful of that magnet," Maureen shouted. Chapter 227, Loken Magnet. Maureen had seen the power of this magnet with his own eyes. Last time, Lucas used this magnet to destroy a house and turned it into a sphere. If Maureen hadn't been able to appear it, he probably wouldn't have been able to escape. This magnet is too dangerous. Alton had already fired several purple spells at Lucas again. The purple light intertwined in the room and quickly rolled towards Lucas, but at this time, the black magnet in Lucas's hand had already lit up with a black light. This black light was like a strange and powerful attraction. Alton's spells didn't hit Lucas, but were all sucked away by the magnet in Lucas's hand and disappeared into the magnet. Even the red coma spell that Maureen fired at Lucas missed and was sucked onto the magnet. Alton was shocked. "Loken Magnet, where did you get it from?" "What is Loken Magnet?" Maureen asked in confusion. "A terrible thing. With this magnet, any spell cast on him will be devoured by this magnet." Alton looked shocked. "But I remember that this magic-devouring magnet was confiscated by the Ministry of Magic in the Department of Dangerous Dark Magic Items. How could you get it?" "Stinky old man, the more you know, the faster you die." Lucas smiled grimly. He tapped the magnet with his wand, and the magnet suddenly lit up with a purple light. Then, purple lights flew out of the magnet. These purple lights intertwined in the air for a moment, like purple arrows rushing towards Alton and Maureen. These purple spells were the spells that Alton had just fired against Lucas. Unexpectedly, the strange magnet in Lucas's hand turned against them. Alton's face also changed slightly. He waved his wand and erected a wall in front of him to block all the purple spells. In addition, Maureen saw that the coma spell he had just fired was also flying towards him. What the hell, so powerful? He waved his wand to block his own stun spell, and then quickly ran to a large flower pot next to him. Alton shouted, "Don't use spells on him again, otherwise we will suffer." Maureen also understood this. Lucas had a dangerous and powerful magnet in his hand, which could not only swallow spells, but also rebound spells. This was the first time he had heard of a magnet with such ability. It was unwise for them to use spells on Lucas again at this time, because no matter how they cast spells, they would be ineffective, and they could only passively defend. Maureen and Alton had concerns, but Lucas over there was unscrupulous. He laughed loudly, and the muscles on his face twitched like hemp ropes. "What's wrong? Have you become a turtle so quickly? Don't you dare to continue." Various dangerous spells kept shooting at Maureen and Alton. A grey spell hit Maureen's side, smashing the vase where he was hiding. Maureen could only use spells to block the fragments and drill behind the wall. This magnet must have some weakness, right? Maureen asked loudly to Alton, who was hiding next to the water dispenser on the other side. The lock magnet was in Lucas's hand. Logically, with this magnet that could absorb spells, Lucas didn't need to run around at all. He could deal with any wizard, but Lucas took it out now, which was obviously unreasonable. I don't know. Alton blocked an oncoming crushing spell with his wand. This matter is not my business. What are you still doing here? Get out of here. But at this time, the room was full of Lucas's spells. Maureen saw from the cracks of the incomplete table that Lucas seemed to have given up on pestering him. He had already run to the door and was ready to retreat. Don't even think about leaving. Alton also discovered this. He quickly fired a spell at the wall, and the door that was originally the exit immediately surged, squeezing the wall against each other and blocking the door. Lucas cast an explosive spell, but it only blew off the wall. Alton's spell blocked the explosive spell well. If you want to die so badly, I'll grant your wish. Lucas turned his head in anger and threw a red glass ball into the air. The glass ball spun rapidly and hit Alton. Alton thought Lucas had used some dangerous black magic item again. He had raised his wand to shatter the glass ball, but Maureen recognized the glass ball at a glance and shouted, "Wait, don't break that glass ball." But it was too late. Alton's spell had hit the red glass ball, and suddenly a dazzling light swept across, filling the whole room with red light. Why not? Alton frowned. After he broke the red glass ball, he didn't feel anything strange. The red light only flashed for 2 seconds and then disappeared. Because it's a red light ball. Maureen closed his eyes in time before the glass ball broke. He had seen James playing with this kind of ball when he was in school before. This was a new product developed by Weasley. People who saw the red light would not be able to correctly identify the direction within a minute. Originally, this kind of thing was only used to play tricks on people. Who would have thought that Lucas would actually get such a ball? Alton turned his head in confusion and looked at the wall on his left-hand side. What did you say this ball is? Maureen sighed and said, a red ball with a spell that doesn't distinguish between left and right. I'm on your right. What right? Alton turned around and glanced at the mess in front of him, and said in surprise, a spell that doesn't distinguish between left and right? Damn, where is that guy? Why is he gone? The latest novels are first published on the 69th book bar. Alton raised his wand to remove the spell that didn't distinguish between left and right on his body. It was too easy for him to remove this spell, but it delayed him for a while, but Lucas seized this opportunity. He's behind you, be careful. Maureen shouted anxiously. Lucas had already cast a petrification spell at Alton, petrifying Alton, who was caught off guard. Lucas's petrification spell was quite powerful. It really turned a person into a stone sculpture. Alton was completely unable to move. Lucas waved the spell again, and a crushing spell shot towards Alton, who had turned into a stone sculpture. Once the petrification spell hit Alton, then Alton would definitely be in trouble. Maureen had already rushed over and knocked Alton down, narrowly allowing Alton to avoid the crushing spell. He got up in a panic, turned around and pointed his wand at the stone slab under Lucas' feet, turning the stone slab under Lucas' feet into a quagmire. Lucas was originally going to attack Maureen, but his feet were unstable, he stumbled, and almost fell. The spell also deviated an inch and hid a folder behind Maureen, and the folder immediately burned. You annoying little brat, you're looking for death? Lucas didn't pay attention to Maureen's movements just now, and almost suffered a loss. Maureen took this opportunity to fire a stun spell at Lucas again, but Lucas knocked his wand on the Locan magnet again, swallowing Maureen's stun spell. Maureen suddenly discovered a situation. When he fired the transformation spell at Lucas's feet in a hurry, the spell was not absorbed by the Locan magnet, because Lucas was casting a spell on Maureen at that time, and when Maureen used the stun spell, it would be absorbed, which was obviously not right. In other words, Lucas couldn't use the Locan magnet to avoid Maureen's spell while casting a spell on Maureen. If Lucas wanted to use the Locan magnet, he couldn't cast a spell on others himself. The flames behind Maureen were already burning. He turned around and pointed at the flames, and the flames were immediately stretched and elongated, turning into a huge fire dragon. The dragon roared and pounced on Lucas in the air. But these flames were quickly sucked away by the magnet in Lucas's hand. Not only that, The quagmire that Maureen had just created under Lucas' feet had also been broken by Lucas. Chapter 228 The Box in the Wall. Maureen kept firing spells at Lucas. When Lucas was thinking about how to leave, Lucas had this powerful magnet in his hand. With his current strength, he was no match for Lucas. Moreover, Alton was still petrified. Maureen found it difficult to unlock Lucas's petrification spell. After all, he was just a student at Hogwarts. Even though he was more proficient in magic than many students, he still lacked experience in dealing with truly powerful adult wizards. Lucas had been laughing at Maureen. He got out of the quagmire and put away the lock and magnet. In his opinion, Maureen was just a child and didn't need to use the lock and magnet at all. What? Little brat, do you want to deal with me with these childish magic? Lucas fired a yellow spell at Maureen's head. The light tube on the ceiling exploded immediately, and the fragments spun like blades and chopped at Maureen. Maureen quickly cast a barrier spell to block the blade. But the fragments that were cast with spells were too powerful, and they directly cut off Maureen's barrier spell. Maureen hurriedly ran to the side, but Lucas swung his wand again, and a chair flew over and hit Maureen, knocking him into the corner. I don't have time to tangle with you. Lucas didn't care about Maureen. He took out his pocket watch to check the time. I have something to do. He sneered and glanced at the petrified Alton, then turned and walked towards the wall. On the wall opposite was a photo wall, which seemed to be photos of the company's employees traveling, and there were some inspiring slogans on it to create performance. Childish. Lucas waved his wand, and all the photos burned and soon turned into ashes. Even the blue wall skin was lifted up, revealing a piece of cement. The lock and magnet in his hand floated in the air, stuck to the wall, and kept rolling. Lucas also stretched out his wand and knocked on the wall for a while, and the cement blocks also peeled off, revealing rows of bricks. He fumbled among those bricks, as if looking for something. Maureen tried hard to move the chair that hid him, but the chair was too heavy. He didn't know what kind of spell was cast on it, and Maureen couldn't move it with his strength. His wand fell at his feet, and he couldn't reach it. He stretched out his hand to get his wand, but his ribs hurt so much that he felt like they were about to break. The slightest movement of his body would pull his ribs. The lock and magnet had stopped at a position on the wall. Lucas seemed to have found what he wanted there. The muscles on his face kept twitching, revealing a sick smile. Maureen saw through the chair that Lucas had dug a hole in the wall, but he didn't know what was in the hole. It's here, I knew it. They actually put this thing in a Muggle building, tut-tut. Lucas laughed. Maureen saw Lucas cast several more cutting spells on the hole in the wall to expand the hole. Soon, a solid black brick appeared in front of him. The black brick looked like it was made of iron and was very solid. There were some strange words engraved on it. Maureen could not see these words clearly, but he was sure that he could not understand them. Lucas took out his wand and knocked on the black brick, and recited a very difficult spell, Goroch Satrila Point. As soon as he recited the spell, the strange words on the black brick suddenly lit up with golden light. These lights intertwined with each other, followed by a light click sound, like a button being opened. Maureen soon realized that what Lucas held in his hand was not a so-called brick, but a small box that looked like a brick. Lucas opened a crack in the small box and took a look, and smiled triumphantly. Very good, the fourth one is in hand. What fourth one? Maureen didn't understand what Lucas was saying, but when Lucas opened the small box, a strange sound came from it, which echoed clearly in Maureen's mind. The sound was like an old man sighing, and it was like a monster that had been sleeping for a long time humming, which made him shudder involuntarily. Maureen Walker, is this your name? The low voice sounded in Maureen's mind. Who is it? Maureen was shocked. The voice came so abruptly that Maureen didn't even react. He thought someone came up to him and greeted him. But this voice definitely didn't come from Lucas. Maureen knew this very well. He had a very absurd feeling. This voice seemed to come from that strange box. Before Maureen could respond to the voice, Lucas had already closed the box, and the sound stopped abruptly. Lucas didn't seem to know what sound came from the box, but his expression seemed very excited. Maureen ignored the voice. He had grabbed his wand at this time, pointed at Lucas' back and said, "Faint." The red stunning spell was fired from Maureen's wand, and was about to hit Lucas' back, but Lucas seemed to have noticed something, turned around quickly, and dispelled Maureen's stunning spell. Are you so anxious to die, little brat? Lucas stuffed the small box into his pocket and stared at Maureen coldly. Don't worry, I'll help you. The latest novels are first published on Liuji 9 Shuba. But then Turman's voice came from the distant corridor. Alton, where are you? Are you okay? Where is that guy? Lucas frowned. He snorted coldly, and knocked his wand on the lock and magnet. This time, the lock and magnet emitted a black vortex of light, and a strong suction force suddenly swept out, and everything around flew up and flew towards the magnet in his hand. Maureen was shocked. He knew the power of this magnet. Last time, Lucas used this magnet to suck everything into a ball in the restaurant in the farm town. If Maureen was right, I'm afraid Lucas was going to destroy this office building again this time. The broken chairs and broken table fragments and various destroyed computers flew towards Lucas and rotated around him. The bricks and steel bars of the wall began to deform, and a strong tearing force also acted on Maureen. Last time, Maureen escaped from this strong suction force by apparition, but this building has been imprisoned and he cannot apparition. Maureen's escape route is completely blocked. The chair on Maureen's body has been moved away by him. He pounced over and waved his wand. A rope flew out and wrapped around the petrified grandfather Alton. The other end of the rope was tied to the slightly deformed pillar. After making sure that his grandfather would not be swept away, Maureen quickly stabilized his body and tied himself firmly to the pillar. But he knew that this was not a solution, because soon the whole building would collapse and be sucked into a big ball by Lucas's lock magnet. He had to find another way. Maureen looked at the rapidly rotating suction force. The suction force was so strong that it sucked everything. The windows, wallpaper fragments, and wood chips of chair legs of the whole building were constantly collapsing inward with Lucas as the center. Lucas watched all this with a sneer. He stood in the middle of the whirlpool, not worried at all because the fragments did not hide him. He seemed to have figured out how to leave here. Chapter 229 Lightning Magic. Turman had already blown up the wall from the corridor outside and rushed in. He was shocked to see the whole office in a mess. He almost lost his balance and was sucked into the vortex. Fortunately, he grabbed the twisted steel bar in time. What happened? Turman saw Maureen pulling the petrified Alton, raised his wand to help Maureen, but a table fell on him, and he quickly split the table with his wand. Lucas! Don't you stop! Turman shouted angrily. Lucas sneered, another one to die. Turman struggled to resist the debris that came over, and summoned a pillar from under his feet. He held the pillar tightly with one hand, and waved his wand with the other hand to fire more spells at Lucas, trying to stop Lucas. But no matter how Turman cast the spell, his spell would deviate from the direction when it was fired and be sucked away by the Locan magnet. On the other side, the rope that helped Maureen and Alton was also being pulled, constantly moving towards Lucas. Not only that, countless fragments in the air whizzed past quickly, and those sharp stones and iron pieces were like knives, cutting on the rope. The rope was already worn and almost broken. Maureen had already been lying on Grandpa Alton, casting a rebound spell around his body. Those fragments that rushed over would be bounced away and fly towards Lucas from another direction. He wanted to ensure that he and his grandfather would not be hit by these fragments. There must be a way to get out of here. Maureen forced himself to calm down, and his attention became extremely focused. Arnok said that the power in his body had awakened a little now, so he didn't give him the dragon flame cold repellent. But he hadn't used that strange power for several months, and Maureen couldn't use that irresistible flame at will. He was also very anxious in his heart. If he could use that power, he shouldn't be so passive. But at this moment, a strange feeling flashed through Maureen's mind, which came from the box on Lucas' body. Even though Lucas had put the box away, when Maureen calmed down, he felt that he was still tied to the box by a vague connection, especially when he was pulled closer to Lucas by the tearing force. The connection deepened a little. Although it was only a tiny trace, a light flashed through Maureen's mind, and his pupils of different colors gradually lit up under the effect of the connection. He himself did not even notice this light, but he seemed to see clearly in an instant where the weakness of the tearing force around Lucas was. This magnet can absorb many powerful spells, but it is only afraid of a very irregular spell, that is, the unpredictable lightning spell. Maureen didn't know how he knew this, but when this thought appeared in his mind, he immediately swung the wand in his left hand towards the vortex. Wind and thunder. Maureen's wand emitted a burst of deep blue sparks, and the lightning roared in the air, and soon poured into the vortex suction around Lucas. Lucas obviously didn't expect Maureen to suddenly use lightning magic. When he saw the blue light in the air flash and disappear, he had already roared in shock and anger. Obviously, he knew what the magnet in his hand was most afraid of. The lock magnet would not absorb lightning magic. But by the time he reacted, it was too late. Maureen's lightning did not hit the magnet, but spun around Lucas. However, Lucas soon sneered again, "Lightning magic doesn't work on me, little brat." He knew that the lock magnet was most afraid of lightning spells, but the premise was that lightning spells needed to act in a certain pattern. Simply launching a lightning spell could not break the lock magnet. He only thought that Maureen was a blind cat that accidentally used the lightning spell, rather than simply discovering the weakness of the lock magnet. He was totally wrong to think so. Maureen shouted again, waved his wand, and fired several more lightning spells. Lightning kept flashing around Lucas, creating violent electric sparks, which made Lucas more and more frightened. When he was about to stop Maureen suddenly swung his wand back, and the lightning that was originally rotating around Lucas began to rotate in the opposite direction. The direction of these lightning rotations was completely opposite to the direction of the vortex. The violent magnetic field originally generated by the Locan magnet was driven by these reverse-rotating lightning, and the tearing force gradually began to weaken, and the debris around him no longer flew towards Lucas. Bang! A huge explosion sounded from Lucas' body, as if because Maureen's reverse lightning interfered with the vortex he created to destroy the building. The lightning magic caused his vortex to explode directly, and the huge impact force hit Lucas all at once. Lucas flew backwards and hit the wall behind him. His face instantly turned pale, like a piece of white paper. His right hand holding the Locan magnet was struck by Maureen's lightning. It was already a bloody mess, charred, and slightly smoking. There was even a smell of burnt meat. "Damn it, little brat, you deserve to die." Lucas trembled and raised his wand to kill Maureen, but Maureen's movements were faster than him. Wind and thunder sound. The blue spell hit Lucas again, and Lucas screamed. His whole body was shaking with electric sparks, and his hair even stood up. His originally pale face was now blackened by the electricity. He seemed to realize that if he dragged it out any longer, he would definitely suffer a lot, especially since Turmoil next to him had already pointed his wand at him. The latest novels are first published on the 69th book bar. Lucas quickly jumped out of the window next to him. He fired a rebound spell under his feet and jumped high. Maureen immediately chased to the window and tried to stop Lucas, but Lucas took out a black skull spike from his pocket in midair. The skull spike rushed out and penetrated into the sky. The apparition spell that originally imprisoned the building was immediately pierced by the spike, and Lucas disappeared in the air in the blink of an eye. This guy is really well prepared. Maureen frowned. Unless he knew where Lucas went, he would not be able to catch up with Lucas through apparition. Maureen finally understood why Lucas was not in a hurry to leave here. Even if the imprisonment spell to prevent apparition was cast, he was not worried. It turned out that it was because he had a very dangerous black magic item in his hand. Damn, it was almost there. If our anti-transferring illusion spell hadn't been cast too hastily, he wouldn't have been able to escape even with that corpse nail. Turmoil also ran to the window. He was slightly annoyed as he looked at the direction where Lucas disappeared. He realized that they had run in vain this time. Lucas was much more powerful than they thought, especially the many black magic items in his hand that came from nowhere. But how did you break Lucas's magic just now? None of my spells worked. How could you? Turmoil turned his head to look at Maureen. Maureen gave him a bigger surprise than the well-prepared Lucas. If it weren't for this kid who suddenly appeared to help him heal his injuries, he wouldn't even be here. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 230: The Mysterious Child. When Turmoil turned around, he didn't see Maureen. Maureen had already run back to Alton and touched the petrified Alton with his magic wand, but the spell on Alton still didn't dissolve. He was a little anxious. This is a special stone statue spell, not a petrification spell. Ordinary elimination spells can't dissolve it. We need a more powerful restoration spell. Turmoil also came over. He obviously had more experience than Maureen. He took out his magic wand and touched Alton, whispering, "Return to nature." A faint white light emanated from the petrified Alton, and he had returned to normal. He sat up, one hand still touching his knee. When he was petrified just now, Maureen had tried his best to protect him, but he was still hit on the knee by a broken keyboard. Maureen was relieved to see that Alton was fine. "Turmoil, where's Lucas?" Alton tapped his knee with his wand and looked around. Did he escape? He escaped. He broke the restraints and apparated away, Alton. But by the way, thanks to this, damn it, wait, don't go. Turman was about to stop Maureen, but Maureen also apparated away. No way, he ran too fast. Turman was a little annoyed. He had many questions he wanted to know from Maureen, but Maureen didn't give them a chance. Turman could only stare at the air in a daze. After a long while, he said, by the way, after you were petrified just now, you were almost sucked into Lucas's stone. It was he who held you tightly and saved your life. Turman briefly told Alton about how Maureen helped him heal his fracture just now, and also carefully described how Maureen used lightning magic to eliminate Lucas's magnetite. That kid is so powerful. Alton was surprised, and then he felt a little unbelievable. I don't know if I saw it wrong, the kid's figure is very familiar. Alton was puzzled. Of course his grandson looked familiar, but the point was that Maureen simply disguised himself. In addition, Alton was sure that Maureen was still at home when he left, a long distance away from here. He didn't know that Maureen had learned to apparate, so he didn't think that the person who saved him would be Maureen. Could it be your grandson, Alton? Turman pulled Alton up from the ground and joked. Don't be ridiculous, Maureen can't apparate. Maybe it's not a child, but a dwarf. You know, children can't apparate. Alton said. He wouldn't know such powerful magic. Think about it. If that guy is a child, he would probably be in the 1st or 2nd grade. How much magic can such a young child know? Turman agreed with Alton, but changed his mind and said, but it's hard to say. The arm he used to cast the wand just now was not a dwarf's arm. It was obviously a child's. Alton and Turman looked at each other. They had seen dwarves before. Dwarves have very rough skin, and the person who helped them just now did not have the characteristics of a dwarf. The way he spoke was obviously changed by magic. If it is a child, Alton looked very serious. We have to find him. He may know something. By the way, he must be underage. We can go to the Ministry of Magic to ask. Minors who use magic outside of school will be warned. We can also help him to testify to avoid him being expelled. Alton was of course kind. He believed that minors who used magic outside of school would be registered. Unfortunately, he didn't know that his grandson was not such a simple person at all. Maureen would not tell Alton that he had been to the scene. The main reason was that he didn't want his grandfather Alton to worry too much. You know, in such a dangerous situation today, Alton would never let Maureen take risks. If Alton knew that Maureen was an invisible man in the wizarding world and had learned to apparate, after the shock, there would be a series of serious warnings and house arrest. I'm afraid that Maureen will not be able to do whatever he wants when he wants to leave home in the future. Alton will definitely find ways to stop him from taking risks, and will not even tell him any news about Lucas, but Maureen can't wait to know about Lucas. You have been at home today, right? Alton didn't come back until 2 hours later. The first thing he did when he came back was to confirm whether the child he just met was his grandson. He went to the Department of Mysteries of the Ministry of Magic to confirm that there was no record of minors using magic in the Muggle office building, so he was a little confused about the situation now. Yes, Grandpa. Maureen sat on the sofa, flipping through a book, biting a snake fruit in his hand. Just now I seemed to hear Anderson talking about Lucas, so what's the situation? Did you catch that guy? Maureen looked at Alton innocently, as if he couldn't wait to know about Lucas. Alton looked at the ignorant Maureen, and the doubts in his heart were slowly suppressed. Thinking about it, how could his grandson appear in such a dangerous place? Besides, Maureen just finished the 1st grade, it is unlikely that he would cast such a powerful magic, and happen to save himself. We didn't catch Lucas. He got a lot of black magic items from somewhere, and messed up a Muggle office building. It took us a long time to restore the building to normal. Alton used his wand to wash his muddy shoes clean, and then sat next to Maureen, looking very tired. Muggle office building? Then what is the excuse you gave to the Muggles this time? Maureen asked curiously. Gas leak, poisonous mushrooms, biological weapons appeared in that building, which made people hallucinate. Anyway, all kinds of excuses and forgetfulness spells were used, and it was not easy to convince the Muggles. Alton took off his shoes and put them on the coffee table. What is a biological weapon? The latest novels are first published on the 69th book bar. Maureen quickly pulled out a few small wooden hammers and a few flexible artificial hands from under the coffee table. These things automatically floated into the air with a clang, and massaged Alton's back, legs and shoulders. I don't know either. Turmoil suggested using this excuse, saying that it is more convincing to Muggles, and he is a Muggle-born. Alton yawned. Are you okay, Grandpa? Maureen also massaged Alton's legs, and rubbed Grandpa's knees intentionally or unintentionally. He knew that Grandpa's knees had just hit. It's okay, I was just hit by a few spells. By the way, I was fooled by Weasley products again today. They are really a headache. Some products don't distinguish between enemies and friends, especially the glass ball that doesn't distinguish between left and right. Alton looked a little annoyed. Weasley products are updated very quickly, and the buyers are also mixed. If you are not someone who is quite familiar with Weasley products, I'm afraid no one would think that a glass ball would make people confused about left and right. That's right. Maureen now had to admit the flaws of Weasley products. It's okay for ordinary wizards to use them to play pranks, but if it happens in a situation like today, Weasley products will really put the staff of the Ministry of Magic in danger. Just like today, that inconspicuous glass ball almost caused Alton to lose his life. Even if Maureen likes Weasley products very much, he can't defend Weasley products in this matter. After all, it is related to his grandfather's life. But I heard that Weasley products are already being improved. In a few months, they will put a magic mark on all products. As long as every Ministry of Magic staff member holds something in their hands, it is said that they can be automatically identified and these products will be ineffective against Ministry of Magic staff members. Maureen remembered that Hugo mentioned this to him last time. That's because of the pressure from the Ministry of Magic. Their products are too troublesome. When they fall into the hands of dark wizards, they often cause some obstacles for us. Alton's anger subsided a little. It's wise for them to choose to compromise. At least it will be much easier for us to deal with such things in the future. Maureen felt that the concession of Weasley's trick shop was correct. If those light prank toys were only ineffective against Ministry of Magic staff members, it would be reasonable. I still find it strange. How did Lucas get the lock's magnet from the dangerous dark magic items department? Alton said again with a frown. This is indeed a problem. The power of the magnet is obvious to all, but Maureen didn't know that the lock's magnet was originally confiscated by the Ministry of Magic. Chapter 231 I have to thank them. Grandpa, what is the lock magnet? Maureen asked. Although he had seen the power of the lock magnet, he still didn't know much about it. Lucas used the lock magnet to find the black box today. What did the box mean? Maureen still felt a little confused. Why did he hear a very strange sound the moment Lucas opened the box? Locken's magnet is a very dangerous magnet. More than a decade ago, that magnet brought a disaster to the Muggle world. At that time, the entire Ministry of Magic was in chaos in order to cover up this matter. Alton shook his head. Although that matter is not under the jurisdiction of my department, I still heard that 2 Ministry of Magic staff members lost their lives because of this matter. Lost their lives? That's terrible, Grandpa. Are you feeling well? Maureen asked with concern. He remembered what happened today. If he hadn't accidentally used lightning magic to break the vortex of Locken's magnet today, I'm afraid history would repeat itself. That powerful tearing force can absorb any spell. Ordinary wizards have no way to escape except to apparate and leave. And today is even more dangerous. In order to catch Lucas, they also cast an anti-apparition confinement spell on that area. Don't worry, I'm lucky. Alton patted Maureen's hand. By the way, there was a very strange person who saved me today. Thanks to him, otherwise I might have been in trouble. I heard from Turmoil that it was he who used the lightning spell to crack the Loken magnet. Alton looked Maureen up and down again and said, that person is about the same height as you. Maureen laughed dryly twice and said, Grandpa, do you know who he is? I don't know, this is too strange. I just went back to the Ministry of Magic to ask the staff of the Department of Mysteries, but they didn't detect any minors using magic. Alton couldn't figure it out. Maureen said like an outsider, maybe he is not a minor, he just happened to pass by. Alton nodded slightly, looking a little regretful. You are right, it should be a dwarf wizard. He left after saving us. It's a pity. I wanted to thank him in person. Alton would never have thought that the person he wanted to thank was sitting next to him and helped him massage his legs. That person may have stumbled upon it by mistake. Don't take it too seriously. Maureen said modestly. That's not a mistake, Maureen. Alton said seriously, that person is knowledgeable. He actually knows how to use lightning magic to deal with Loken's magnet. To be honest, we don't know how to deal with Loken's magnet. He probably knows more about Loken's magnet than I do. We should thank him. That person's magic is also very powerful, maybe even more powerful than me. It's too much to say that he is better than you, Grandpa. He is definitely not as good as you. Maureen said subconsciously. Maureen still knows his own weight. Even if he is better than ordinary students, he is still impossible to compare with the experienced Alton. Molin, you can't have this attitude, understand? Without him, Grandpa would have fallen today. You should also thank him, otherwise you should learn to be respectful of others. There are people better than you. If someone saves you, you should be grateful to him instead of questioning him. I have told you many times that it doesn't matter if you are a little naughty, but you must not forget the necessary principles. Being a man is to know how to be grateful. This is a matter of principle. Seeing Maureen's disapproving attitude, Alton actually became serious and taught Maureen earnestly. Usually, Alton would tolerate whatever Maureen did, but when it comes to being a man, Alton would never be careless. Maureen opened his mouth. This seems to be wrong. Who should I thank? Should I thank myself? Yes, yes, yes. Maureen nodded solemnly, like a chicken pecking at rice, and his attitude of admitting his mistakes was really serious. I will thank him. Well, thank him very much. Saying a few words of thanks to yourself is really a new thing. Alton saw Maureen's attitude of knowing his mistakes and correcting them, and then he said with satisfaction, that's right. If you have the chance to meet that person next time, Grandpa will take you to meet him. Learn from him, be helpful, do good things without leaving your name. There are not many good people in society who are so low-key. Maureen tried hard to hold back his laughter. He was low-key just to avoid worrying you. Then Alton spent half an hour telling Maureen in detail how the low-key good man saved him in a critical moment, what wonderful magic he used, and how he turned the tide of the battle in a critical moment. Alton's storytelling ability is vivid and vivid. He also polished a lot of details himself. Many places are fictitious, and he described the mysterious wizard who saved him as a god descending from heaven. If Maureen didn't know the truth, he almost believed that the person who saved Alton was a peerless wizard with superb magic who could fight 10 people alone. Now you know why Grandpa wants you to thank him, right? Alton patted Maureen on the shoulder, feeling a little proud when he thought that he could use this incident to teach Maureen the principle of gratitude and let the 12-year-old Maureen receive the right education since childhood. The latest novels are first published on the 69th book bar. He is such a responsible grandfather, and he knows how to teach students in accordance with their aptitude. I know. Keep it in mind. Maureen touched his conscience, looking confused. He thought his conscience shouldn't hurt, right? It wouldn't hurt, it wasn't his fault. Seeing his grandfather's happy expression, Maureen couldn't bear to tell his grandfather that the powerful short wizard who saved him was actually his grandson. Maureen stood up and poured a glass of water for Grandpa, then said, by the way, Grandpa, if the Loken magnet was confiscated in the Department of Dangerous Dark Magic Items, maybe someone broke into it. It's unlikely. The Department of Dangerous Dark Magic Items is heavily guarded. Alton said after taking a sip of water. The Department of Dangerous Dark Magic Items of the Ministry of Magic, where very dangerous dark magic items are confiscated, the magical means used to protect dark magic items must be extraordinary. Grandpa, last time you told me that the Department of Mysteries was heavily guarded, but didn't someone break in later? Maureen said disapprovingly. Ever since Paingard led Pre to break into the Department of Mysteries, Maureen had doubts about the security work of the Ministry of Magic. Although Paingard himself was an old monster who hid very deeply, he was able to seize the opportunity to guide Pre to break in, which showed that there were indeed some loopholes in the security work of the Ministry of Magic. Chapter 232, Restless Files. Alton seemed to have no excuse to refute, and after a while he said, anyway, the people in the Department of Dangerous Dark Magic Items are already counting the lost Lorcan's magnet to see how it was lost. There should be news soon. Douglas, the director of the Department of Dangerous Dark Magic Items, is on vacation, and they are trying to contact him to come back. I remember that I had an old document from the Ministry of Magic last time, which recorded the Lorcan's magnet incident. I don't know where it was lost. Let me think, the box is flying here. Alton picked up his wand and cast a flying spell. A dusty red suitcase rushed down from the attic and landed on the coffee table. Behind it, A few pieces of parchment also floated over from the study and landed on the box. Oh, it's really troublesome. I don't know where the document is piled in this box. I can't find it specifically with a flying charm because I forgot what the document looks like. Alton looked at the suitcase and felt helpless. There were at least 1,000 documents piled here. Every time the Ministry of Magic confiscated a Muggle item that was cast with magic, they had to write a report. Alton worked in the Ministry of Magic for a lifetime and didn't know how many reports he had written. Grandpa, you're tired all day. Take a nap first. I'll look for it. I'm free. Maureen volunteered. Alton was indeed very tired. He nodded, and then lay on the sofa and fell asleep with a soft snore. Maureen brought a blanket to cover him, then pulled the suitcase over and opened the buckle. The suitcase was not big, maybe even smaller than Maureen's school bag, but when he opened it, he realized that the size of a suitcase could not be judged simply by its appearance. Most wizards' suitcases were spelled with a traceless extension spell, so they had a very large capacity. Alton's suitcase was at least as big as Maureen's bedroom, and there were countless documents piled up inside. That's why I don't want to work at the Ministry of Magic. Maureen had no interest in working at the Ministry of Magic. Although Alton wanted to introduce Maureen to the Ministry of Magic after she graduated, Maureen had watched Alton write paperwork reports every day since he was a child, which was really boring. He really had no interest in this kind of work. He put half of his body into the suitcase and started looking from the least pile of documents at the bottom of the suitcase. He pulled out a few green bark folders, which had sprouted and bloomed, and exuded a faint floral fragrance. Really, what is this? Maureen couldn't help muttering. He grabbed a branch of the bark of the folder, opened the folder, and found a broken box inside. From the yellowed text on the box, it can be known that this is a cursed osmanthus tree that originally grew in the back garden of the Muggles. But one day, the osmanthus tree kept swinging back and forth, scaring the Muggles. Alton couldn't break the spell, so he simply sealed it in a small box, then directly covered it in the folder and signed the report. As a result, after so many years, the tree broke the box and the folder turned into bark. You'd better go away. Maureen threw the bark folder into the corner of the box and continued to look through the next folder. Maureen soon realized that looking through Alton's files was a huge challenge. God knows how many cases of abusive Muggle items Alton handled before he retired. Anyway, for each case he handled, he had to write a report. Some files also had photos taken for record, which recorded various Muggle tragedies. When Maureen was looking through the documents, he saw all kinds of bizarre things, such as braces that can make people lose their teeth. After a 15-year-old Muggle used braces, all his teeth fell out. In the end, it was Alton who helped him to use magic to replace his teeth with fake gold teeth. In the report, Alton expressed satisfaction with his handling of the matter, and felt that he made the boy walk with confidence. Unfortunately, the boy with a mouthful of gold teeth was in black and white in the photo. At that time, the photos were not in color, so Maureen could not tell what he looked like. However, he always felt that it was a bit strange. When a boy with a mouthful of gold teeth went out, wasn't he afraid of being blocked in the alley by gangsters to rob and have his teeth pulled out? There were also high heels that made you dance like a swan when you put them on, books that were cast with a sleeping spell, which made you fall asleep when you read them, Muggle mineral water that made you stick out your tongue like a dog when you drank it, chairs that would give you a shot in the buttocks, and hats that made you lose your hair. When Maureen opened a brown folder, he was bitten by it. There seemed to be a biting parchment inside the folder. Alton reported that he had bitten the noses of 50 Muggles. Some Muggle items that could not be removed from the spell were directly sealed in the folder. Those that could be removed from the spell only had some photos and reports. Maureen could not tell which folders were real reports and which folders contained magical items, so he could only look for them one by one. Then he was burned by the folder 3 times and bitten 6 times. There was also a folder that had a mouth appear on a piece of paper when he opened it, saying all kinds of ugly dirty words to curse him. You are the fool. Your mother is making a lot of noise. Your father is making a lot of noise. Your whole family is making a lot of noise. Maureen found that as soon as he touched the paper, he had the inexplicable urge to curse, so he cursed at the paper. After 5 minutes of cursing, he couldn't win, so he closed the folder, and the urge to curse disappeared. He felt that the work of the Muggle Artifacts Prohibition Department was really boring. In order to keep a case record, he had to be nervous when looking through the files. To save trouble, he simply climbed into the suitcase, sat at the bottom of the suitcase, and yawned while looking through the files. A toilet that screams, not. An umbrella that attracts lightning, not. A range hood that sprays smoke. What is that? What the hell? Are you serious? Even a toy can hit people. Maureen covered his head. He just opened a folder and a strange-looking toy man jumped out of it. He was dressed in blue and red and shouted that he was Optimus Prime, prepared to destroy Megatron. Then the plastic parts of his body rolled for a while and turned into a truck the size of a palm, which hit his head hard. I don't care if you are Optimus Prime or Megatron, you go back honestly. Maureen chased the toy truck in the pile of documents for a while, and finally pressed it down and rudely stuffed it back into the folder. This toy originally belonged to a Muggle child. It was accidentally cast a spell, but the spell could not be removed, so it was locked up by Alton. The latest novel is first published on 69shoe.com. What planet Cybertron? Even if it's destroyed, it's not an excuse for you to hit people randomly. Have you learned the basic traffic rules for Muggles? Maureen angrily threw the folder that held Optimus Prime into the pile of documents that had already been checked, but suddenly a dozen Muggle toys of all shapes and sizes popped out of another folder. These Muggle toys shouted their own slogans and ran in the pile of documents. Damn it, go back. Maureen rushed over to prevent the toys from escaping. Then he was bitten by a green giant toy model, a toy who called himself Spider-Man and could spit spider silk covered all the piles of documents with spider webs, and a toy who called himself Doctor who said seriously that he would take him to travel through time and space to save the world. A tall Superman toy man with his underwear on backwards and a cape kept hitting him, saying he wanted to maintain world peace. How can you maintain world peace if you can't even wear underwear? Maureen picked up Superman's feet and locked him up, but a toy monkey behind him who claimed to be the Monkey King kept hitting him with a stick that could stretch and shrink, shouting that he would make trouble in the Heavenly Palace. Another toy man who called himself Iron Man kept shooting soybeans at him, saying he would destroy him with a high-energy laser cannon. Are you done yet? I don't have any dignity, do you? You little bastards. Maureen pulled out his magic wand in anger. Chapter 233, Lock Magnet File. Maureen cast several freezing spells to take down all the restless Muggle toys. These toys were no big deal for him, but they were very dangerous for Muggle children because they could easily hurt them. What on earth did Grandpa put in the folder? Maureen pulled the spider webs off his hair. He was getting impatient. He hadn't found the file of the Locan magnet, and he had gotten himself into a lot of trouble, not to mention that a guy holding a hammer and claiming to be Thor had been clamoring to strike him with lightning. Oh, I forgot to remind you. After Maureen had been searching for an hour, Alton had woken up and poked his head out from above the suitcase and said, "You can't open the folder casually. I haven't maintained the magic of these files for a long time. The magic may fail. You have to wear gloves, otherwise the things imprisoned in the folder will run out." "Hey, what are you doing?" Maureen was pressed down by a pile of files. When he was about to use his wand, Alton also climbed down the stairs of the suitcase. He could only put away his wand. "Grandpa, you should have told me earlier." Maureen pushed the pile of folders away with a great effort and struggled to get up. "Just now, I was attacked by a fat little guy who claimed to be Thanos. He snapped his fingers and knocked down the pile of documents and pressed them on me." "Oh, that little blue man." Alton laughed, chuckled, waved his wand, and grabbed the blue-skinned plastic man. These little toys are the favorites of Muggle children, but unfortunately they are messed up by some restless wizards. This little blue man likes to snap his fingers. He wears a glove and keeps shouting that he has infinite or finite gems, and that he can destroy the entire universe with a snap of his fingers. Sometimes his skin turns purple and red, just like purple potatoes and sweet potatoes. Alton stretched out his finger and flicked it on the forehead of the little blue man Thanos. Thanos rolled his eyes immediately and seemed to be stunned by Alton. Alton threw it into the folder, then took out a pair of gloves from his pocket and threw them to Maureen. "Grandpa, you have too many junk files here." Maureen put on his gloves, which were for adults and looked too big for him, and then opened a folder. This time, nothing jumped out to attack him. The files and reports are very valuable for reference. At least I can study how to crack all kinds of weird magic. You know what? I am an expert in breaking spells in the Ministry of Magic. Alton sat on a pile of files and began to look for relevant information about the Locan magnet. Maureen did not doubt his grandfather's ability. His grandfather had been retired for many years, and people like Edmund often came to ask for advice, which was enough to prove that Alton's ability to break spells was not exaggerated. They searched for an hour, and Maureen finally found the report he needed in a red file bag. Yes, it's this red file bag. Alton took the file bag and tapped the wax seal on it with his wand. Important documents of the Ministry of Magic are sealed with this wax. If the spell is not right, the file bag cannot be opened. Let me see what the lock magnet is all about. Alton took out a piece of parchment from the file bag. On it was an emergency notice issued by the Ministry of Magic to all staff members. There was another piece of paper recording the details of the disaster caused by the lock magnet. It was a document about the turmoil caused by the lock magnet in the Muggle world in 2008. This magnet directly wiped out an 800-meter-high mountain in the northwest of England, forming a huge Cheyenne Ken. The 800-meter-high mountain collapsed into a ball with a diameter of 50 meters. The mountain originally blocked a large river, but after it was destroyed, it directly caused the town where Muggles lived to be swallowed by a sudden flood, killing nearly 1,000 people. At that time, no one could get close to this magnet. Later, a very powerful wizard appeared and calmed the magnet with magic. In order to cover up the disappearance of the mountain, the staff of the Ministry of Magic could only explain to the Muggles that the Earth's crust moved and a meteorite fell. Then an inexplicable disease swept half of Britain. Many Muggles became very manic, burning, killing and looting. Even the magic of wizards could not do anything to them. Once the wizard casts magic on the Muggles, the magic will be absorbed by the Locan lodestone. The Muggles' manic state lasted for 3 whole days until the person who solved the lodestone appeared again and used a powerful spell to make a blue rain fall all over Britain, which resolved the crisis. The files don't record how we should deal with the Locan lodestone, nor do we find out who the wizard who resolved the crisis is. But the person who saved me today tried to use lightning magic. Maybe lightning magic is the nemesis of the Locan lodestone. Alton said. Ordinary lightning may not work. Maureen said casually. He flipped through the old yellowed photos, which showed the appearance of the lock magnet. A dozen wizards pointed at it carefully with their wands, fearing that something might happen to it. Finally, the magnet was placed in a box, and there were many senior officials of the Ministry of Magic wearing hats. How do you know that ordinary lightning won't work? Alton asked suspiciously. Maureen said quickly, I'm just guessing, Grandpa. Didn't you use lightning magic to deal with it at that time? I mean, such a powerful thing can't be simply afraid of lightning magic, right? That's right, that smart guy may know something. I should find a way to find him. He can tell us how to deal with this magnet. Alton nodded. Maureen knew how to deal with the strong suction caused by the lock magnet. Lightning magic should be used in the opposite direction of rotation to offset the suction, rather than just casting a lightning magic to work. But he couldn't tell his grandfather now. He had to find another way to let his grandfather know. The latest novel is published on 69 Shuba. However, compared with how to deal with the lock magnet, Maureen is more concerned about the disaster caused by the appearance of this magnet. This magnet can cause damage, but it can also make Muggles crazy and make wizards' magic ineffective. This is an unprecedented thing. Sweet Sister's disappearance of consciousness seems to be related to this magnet. Lucas also used this magnet to find some mysterious boxes. The strangest thing is that when Maureen opened the box, a voice appeared in his mind. What is going on? It seems that there is nothing to gain. Let's go and go to bed. It's late. Alton picked up the report on the lock magnet and climbed out of the suitcase. Maureen followed behind. It was already early in the morning. He yawned and returned to his bedroom. 3 chapters will be updated today, and 4,500 recommendation votes will be added. Chapter 234 Ministry of Magic. When he woke up the next morning, it was already past 9 o'clock. Alton had made breakfast and was sitting in a chair reading a book. Maureen took a piece of bread from the table and took out the report on the Locan magnet on the table and read it for a while. After a while, Alton's pocket watch vibrated, and Anderson's voice came from it. Alton, Douglas, the director of the Dangerous Dark Magic Items Department, is missing. The door to the Dark Magic Items warehouse has been cast with a strange spell. We can't open it. Can you come and take a look? Douglas is missing. Alton put down a glass of oat milk in surprise. Isn't he on vacation? Did you find him at his home? No, Alton. Anyway, it's a bit chaotic here, and the spell on the warehouse door is difficult to break. They asked me to contact you. I'll wait for you at the entrance of the employee emergency passage. Anderson said. Okay, I'll be there right away. Alton closed his pocket watch and hurriedly put on his shoes. Maureen, I'm going out for a while. You stay at home and behave yourself. I'm going to. No, this is work. I'll blow up the house when I'm bored. Okay, okay. Then you have to behave yourself and don't make trouble. Maureen quickly wolfed down the oat milk, changed her clothes, and followed Alton's pace. Alton took Maureen directly to a small alley in London. The alley looked very shabby. The stone slabs on the ground were polished smooth and round, and there were weeds growing in the cracks of the stone slabs. Why don't you use flue powder? Maureen hadn't been to the Ministry of Magic for a long time. In the past, he basically grabbed a handful of flue powder from home and shouted Ministry of Magic, and that was it. Since the Department of Mysteries was invaded, flue powder has been restricted. There are all kinds of inspections to take that road. It's troublesome. Alton looked around. There were people hurrying outside the alley. No one noticed that two people suddenly appeared here. He walked quickly to a telephone pole, which was covered with various small advertisements and many ugly graffiti. There was also a street lamp tied to the pole, but the bulb had been smashed. Alton found a bottle of expired strong detergent in the trash can next to the pole and sprayed it under the pole, but what came out was not detergent, but a sticky mass, like oil. Step on it. Alton gestured to Maureen. Maureen knew there were many ways to get to the Ministry of Magic, either through the telephone booth or flushing the toilet, but in order not to attract the attention of Muggles, he had to change a method from time to time. He and Alton stepped on the oil, at least he thought it was oil, and then Alton kicked the pole, and the street lamp without a bulb on it suddenly lit up and shone on them, and then Maureen felt unstable, and the oil under his feet was like a swamp, swallowing them all at once. He felt himself falling down, and it was pitch black all around. Only a prim female voice was reporting, "You have entered the special passage of the Ministry of Magic. The Ministry of Magic welcomes you." Then his falling speed began to slow down, as if he had been cast a levitation spell, and he stood steadily on the floor. In front of him was the hall of the Ministry of Magic. The marble of the ceiling emitted a bright light, illuminating the entire hall. Countless noisy voices came in, and many wizards in robes came and went, looking hurried. Many of them were carrying briefcases. A wizard in a dark green robe kept talking while walking. A piece of paper and a pen floated beside him, quickly recording what he said. There were also newspapers and letters flying in the air in an orderly manner. The hall was very spacious, with 9 doors on the light blue wall. Many people were queuing at the door. It seemed that because they had just started work in the morning, there were a lot of people. Alton led Maureen to a door with fewer people in line. In front of him was an old witch wearing a hat decorated with wisteria flowers. She was showing off the red withered stone teeth she had just bought from a goblin to another wizard in a brown dragon leather jacket. Maureen noticed that the 2 doors of the old witch were red, like a branding iron that was burned red, and it looked very eye-catching. "Yes, it cost me 50 gold galleons." The old witch looked very happy, "but it's worth the price. This is the popular tooth inlay in Ireland recently. I like this kind of teeth." Maureen held back his laughter. The old witch's red teeth were really weird, and it was not as real as a gold tooth inlay. He saw that the wizard's expression was also very strange, and he obviously disagreed with the old witch's aesthetics. "Alton, no need to queue, this way. Anderson asked me to wait for you here." Turman waved to Alton in the distance. Alton walked towards Turman, who looked like he had been waiting for a long time. He rubbed his hands, and there were dark circles under his eyes. He said, "I worked overtime until very late last night and didn't go home. I slept in the office. How is your knee?" "It's okay. Tell me about Douglas first," Alton said. "The situation is very complicated. We are not sure whether the Locan magnet has been stolen. Only Douglas knows how to open the warehouse of the Department of Dark Magic items because he manages it. But he disappeared. This is very strange. You know we all carry communication pocket watches with us, so we can contact each other anytime and anywhere, but Douglas left the pocket watch at home." Turman walked towards a door. This door was red. No one was queuing. It was written with words such as emergency passage, available for A-level employees. There were also several buttons on the door, marked with Underground Floor 1, Minister's Office, Underground Floor 2, Department of Magical Law Enforcement, Underground Floor 3, Department of Magical Accidents and Disasters, Underground Floor 9, Department of Mysteries, etc. The hall they were in belonged to the 8th underground floor. The latest novel is published on 69 Shuba. Turman took out his wand and poked the button of Underground Floor 2. The button immediately lit up, and a voice came, Auror Field Service, Turman Frick, Walnut Wand, Dragon Tendon Nerve, 12 inches, identity confirmed. Then the door opened, revealing a corridor. Turman and Alton walked into the corridor quickly, and Maureen followed them. The door closed behind them quickly. Maureen had been to the Ministry of Magic many times before, and he knew the function of these doors. In the past, if you want to go to other floors, you have to use the elevator, but some people dislike that the elevator is always too crowded, and sometimes you can't wait, and the efficiency is low, so they now replace all the elevators with a kind of magic door, but you need to register your identity when using this kind of portal. Just find a door in the hall and poke the floor you want to go to with your wand, and the door will turn directly to the floor you want to go to. At the same time, the wand of the wizard using the magic door will be recorded, which is equivalent to confirming the identity of the wizard. After all, for wizards, the wand is their ID card, which is the same as the ID card of Muggles. So now you don't know what dark magic items are lost? Alton asked. That's right. It's hard for us to imagine that the lock's magnet, which is guarded by magic, would be stolen. I hope Lucas only took another piece, otherwise the safety of the dangerous dark magic items department will be questioned. One lock's magnet is terrible enough, and you still expect a second one to appear. Alton shook his head. Now everyone entering and exiting the magic door must be registered. Have you checked the strangers entering and leaving this building? Chapter 235 Department of Dangerous Dark Magical Items. I checked it, but to be honest, since that broke into the Department of Mysteries last time, you should have understood that the identity verification of the magic door is not so reliable. As long as you steal one of our wands, you can get in. Turman said. They walked along the long corridor. The ceiling of the corridor was moon white, illuminating the entire corridor. There were some huge picture frames hanging on the walls. The picture frames were like windows, with some landscape paintings. Some landscape paintings were full of sunshine and could even shine into the corridor. There were also some paintings of green and lush grasslands. When the wind blew over the grassland, the grass rose and fell, and the wind could blow into the corridor, which was fresh and pleasant. Some paintings showed heavy rain, and when lightning flashed, the thunder would also be transmitted to the corridor. There was a black door every distance in the corridor, and a sign was hung on the door, saying a certain department. Maureen was not unfamiliar with this corridor. When he was not in school, he often came here with Alton. The Department of Prohibition of Abusive Muggle Objects was at the corner of this corridor. But they did not stop at Alton's Misuse of Muggle Artifacts department, but walked into a lounge with soft sofas and coffee and food, specially for the Ministry of Magic staff to rest. They walked through the lounge and came to another corridor. After passing the Misuse of Magic department, they came to a simple and dignified stone door. The top of the door was written Department of Dangerous Dark Magical Objects. There was a relief carved on the door, which was a huge griffin. The griffin was lifelike. It was originally lying on the ground. When it saw Alton and Turman, it stood up, flapped its wings, and stared at the outsiders with cold eyes. Alton and Turman had no idea about the griffin relief, and they didn't even stop, just walked straight to the door. The two of them disappeared in the big stone door in an instant. Maureen found that there were two little people reliefs in the upper right corner of the big stone door, which looked like Turman and Alton. Not only that, there were reliefs of more than 10 other people on the stone door, which seemed to record who had passed through this stone door. It's amazing. Maureen had never been here before, so he didn't know what the function of this door was, but he thought that this door should record everyone's appearance. He also followed Alton's example and walked straight to the stone door. The stone door did not stop him. In a blink of an eye, he had come to a relatively dark and narrow corridor. The corridor was not long, with only 3 offices. At the end of the corridor was a door with a purple curtain. At this time, 7 people were surrounding the purple curtain and talking loudly. Anderson, who invited Alton to come over, greeted Alton. Alton and Turman had also joined the discussion. Have you asked this griffin? This stone door will also leave a record, right? I remember that no disguise can hide from this stone door. Alton asked in a rough voice. I checked. The griffin shows that there have been no other strangers invading in recent months. Any stranger who comes in will appear as a relief on the door. Hey, who is this child? A wizard with a big beard looked at Maureen. Oh, he's my grandson, Alton said, "It's not good to leave him alone at home." Maureen greeted everyone happily, and everyone nodded, not taking Maureen seriously, and continued to discuss. "So this is the warehouse that can't be entered, right?" Alton pointed to the door with a purple curtain and asked. The curtain was about 2 meters wide and 3 meters long, without any decorations. There was only a nail in the middle, which seemed to be used to fix the curtain, but the nail was not knocked down, which looked very awkward. "That's right, Alton, the door of the warehouse is locked by a powerful spell. I don't know if it was Douglas who did it. It's very difficult to break it." A blonde witch with her hair tied up in a ball said seriously. "It's bad now. If we can't break this spell, it means that the warehouse can't be entered. I have never seen such a strange magic before. Anderson said that you are very good at breaking the spell, so I'll ask you to come," the bearded wizard said. Maureen looked at the fragile door curtain, and felt strange. The entrance to the warehouse guarding dangerous black magic items was a door with a curtain that looked very carelessly hung. Shouldn't this kind of door be entered by lifting the curtain? "What's strange about this door?" Alton asked. "I remember that you needed a key to enter and exit this door before, right?" Karen. "Yes, the key has always been kept by Douglas, but we can't contact Douglas," the blonde witch Karen said. "Don't you have a spare key?" "There is a spare key, it's with the Director General, we have already taken it." Karen held a black hammer in her hand. She gestured with the hammer in her hand and said, "But this key can't open it either, just watch." It was really an incredible key. Who would use a hammer to open the door? She smashed the hammer in her hand neatly at the long nail in the middle of the door curtain. The long nail made a slight sound, but it was not knocked in, and even the door curtain didn't move. "The key doesn't work. Someone has tampered with the door." Karen was a little annoyed. "You can try to lift the curtain, Alton. The latest novel is first published on the 69th book bar." Alton walked over, lifted the curtain from the left, and walked in, but his body came out from the gap of the curtain on the right. "See, you went in from the left side of the curtain and walked out from the right side, which means the door is not open. If it was open, then this long nail should have been knocked in." Turmoil shook his head beside him. "I don't know who did what to this curtain." Maureen watched Alton's attempt with interest. Alton lifted the curtain on the right and then walked out from the curtain on the left. Even if he leaned half of his body in, the other half of his body would appear on the other side of the 2-meter wide curtain. No matter how he tried, he couldn't get in. This door was cast with such a strange inline magic that it looked simple and sloppy, but in fact, without the hammer key, ordinary people could not enter the warehouse at all, not to mention that even this spare key was invalid now. Alton took out his wand and knocked on the door twice again, chanting a difficult spell, but it still had no effect. The door seemed to be locked and there was no way to break the spell. "We have tried everything we can, but it doesn't work." Karen touched her forehead. She was helpless. The Ministry of Magic can be said to be a place where the most authoritative magicians in the entire wizarding world gather. Their understanding of spells is much more detailed than that of ordinary wizards, and they have countless elites. But this time, they were unable to successfully break a spell within their jurisdiction, which made many people very frustrated. Several people gathered together and began to discuss heatedly. Everyone tried the spells they were good at, but none of them could break it. Even the grumpy bearded wizard Brent used an explosive spell, but unfortunately, how could a small explosive spell be able to break the door of the warehouse used to guard the dark magic? Chapter 236 The Helpless Door Curtain. The little boy, Maureen, was soon forgotten by everyone. No one cared about him, so he kept lifting the door curtain and curiously looked at the seemingly simple and sloppy door. He felt that the lockstone must not be in it. Combined with Douglas's disappearance, Maureen guessed that Lucas might have controlled Douglas with the Imperious Curse and let him steal the lockstone and a lot of other magic things by himself. This was the most likely explanation. But why destroy this door? Maureen couldn't figure this out. It stands to reason that Lucas couldn't have such a great ability to cast a spell that even this group of elite members of the Ministry of Magic couldn't break. The staff of the Ministry of Magic worked in front of this door for a whole morning. From time to time, elite members of other departments walked in with their heads held high, waved their wands at the door curtain twice, and then left dejectedly. Basically, people from all departments were called in to try. However, the door of the warehouse still couldn't be opened. In the end, even the Minister of Magic Rodney Augustine came in person, but unfortunately no one could do anything about this door. Who designed this door? Augustine asked. We need to ask Mr. Quicko. Mr. Quicko should know who designed this door. When the overall design of the Ministry of Magic was modified, he designed the plan of the Ministry of Magic and was the designer he hired. Anderson said. Ask him to come over and ask who designed this door. Augustine said. Anderson took out his pocket watch and began to contact Mr. Quicko. Everyone left the door and returned to the lounge to make plans. About 20 minutes later, 3 people walked into the lounge. The leader was a middle-aged man with long hair, Brown Quicko. He was very tasteful in his clothes, like a gentleman, which made Maureen think of Professor Charles directly. Brown had long silver hair tied up with a brown buckle, a suit with shiny leather shoes, and a sense of elegance between his eyebrows. His temperament was different from all the wizards present. Behind him was a proud man in a dark green luxurious robe, with sharp eyebrows, triangular eyes, a wide forehead, and meticulously groomed black hair. The chest of his robe was adorned with precious black gems. He was arrogant and looked down on everyone. This man made Maureen feel familiar. He soon knew why he was familiar, because Carlo was following behind this man. The two looked 7 points alike. Without asking, Maureen knew that this man must be Carlo's father, Hans Lestrange. Carlo also noticed Maureen. He remembered what happened to him at school, narrowed his eyes, and then smiled coldly. Minister, I'm sorry, I was delayed on the way. Mr. Quicko said, I was helping Mr. Lestrange renovate his manor. I rushed here as soon as I received the news. Yes, the work of the Ministry of Magic is more important than anything else. I also came to see you, Minister. Lestrange bowed slightly and saluted the minister. It doesn't matter. Anderson should have told you about the situation. Who was the person who designed the warehouse door of the dangerous dark magic items department? Augustine nodded to Quicko and Lestrange, and without saying any polite words, he got straight to the point. I know the designer of the warehouse door, but what about this person? He is not easy to mess with. Mr. Quicko said hesitantly. Not easy to mess with? Who else can't our Ministry of Magic mess with? Anderson asked puzzled. Augustine also frowned beside him. Tell me the name. What is not easy to mess with? I will solve it. You should also know that the Ministry of Magic has no power over them, Minister. Mr. Quicko's eyes flickered. You should have heard of Bobby Singer, right? Augustine's face was slightly surprised. Bobby Singer, is it him? Anderson and others' faces also changed. Looking at each other, they seemed to have heard of this person. Yes, since you have heard of him, you should understand that he is the most difficult person to hire. Mr. Quicko said. Augustine pondered for a moment and said, I see, but in any case, please come with me. We will go and invite him in person. The door of the warehouse must be safe. It's my honor, Minister. Mr. Quicko made a gesture of invitation, and the two of them quickly left the lounge. Mr. Lestrange, how come you have time to come here today? Anderson nodded to Lestrange. I just happened to pass by and chatted with Mr. Quicko about my estate. I am planning to expand the estate and asked Mr. Quicko to survey the terrain. The muscles on Lestrange's face twitched, and the smile on his face was as if someone had pulled up the corners of his mouth with fingers, which was very fake. The Lestrange family is really rich. I remember that you just expanded a small courtyard last year, right? Anderson treated Lestrange very politely. The latest novels are first published on the 6th-9th book bar. It's nothing, Anderson. Lestrange said, how does the tea I brought back from Turkey last time taste? It's great. Minister Augustine also tasted this tea and praised it highly. Anderson laughed. This kind of tea that can make people happy physically and mentally must be expensive, right? Money is certainly not a problem. It would be great if the minister likes it. Lestrange sounded very happy. If you still want it, I will send one to everyone next time, all of you. Thank you in advance, Mr. Lestrange. Other wizards were also very polite to Lestrange, and even flattered him. The descendants of the ancient magic family, Lestrange, were rich and generous. It was no harm for the staff of the Ministry of Magic to know such people. Only Alton and Maureen were present, sitting on the sofa in silence. Alton looked at Lestrange with a bad look. Isn't this Mr. Walker who used to visit my house often? Why are you here too? I thought you had retired. Lestrange looked at Alton in surprise. Alton said coldly, if you still have some illegal items at home, I don't mind visiting your home again. Old families like Lestrange and Malfoy not only have the wealth accumulated by their ancestors, but also do some shameful things. Many times, problems can be settled with money, but there are also some people who cannot be bribed with money, such as Alton. Why? Mr. Walker, you are still working so hard for the Ministry of Magic after retirement? Is the pension from the Ministry of Magic not enough? Do you need to come out and earn some extra money from time to time? Lestrange deliberately dragged out the tone and said with a fake smile. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 237 Insult. You'd better shut up. Alton scolded angrily. He was a straightforward person. He would say anything he didn't like. He didn't have the time to curry favor with Lestrange. Anderson saw that the atmosphere seemed a little wrong, and explained quickly, Mr. Lestrange, you misunderstood. Alton was invited to help us. He is a warm-hearted person. He is not in it for money. Don't think he is that kind of person. So it's not for money. Lestrange pretended to be suddenly enlightened. I thought Mr. Walker was short of money. It just so happens that my family is short of a housekeeper. I wonder if Mr. Walker is interested. As for the remuneration, of course it must be 10 times higher than the pension you receive. Are you looking for death? Alton stood up and looked at Lestrange angrily. Maureen looked at Lestrange coldly. The more he looked at this guy, the more he hated him. Carlo looked at Maureen provocatively. Don't be angry, Alton. Mr. Lestrange was just joking. Anderson hurriedly laughed it off, and then said to Mr. Lestrange, Mr. Lestrange, you can't make such a joke to Alton. We all respect Alton. He is a respected person and often helps us solve problems. It seems that you have asked the wrong person, Anderson. Lestrange glanced at Alton contemptuously. If you had told me earlier, maybe I could help you solve this problem. Yes, I know Bobby Singer, and he has a close relationship with our Lestrange family. What? You actually know Bobby Singer? Anderson was a little surprised. How do you know such a legendary big shot like him? Oh, it's like this. When my father was still alive, he and Mr. Singh were close friends. To be honest, there is no one in the wizarding world that our Lestrange family doesn't know. Especially a great legendary wizard like Mr. Singh. He is a guest of honor of our Lestrange family. Lestrange puffed out his chest, looking very complacent. When the wizards nearby heard that Lestrange actually knew Bobby Singer, they immediately showed envy and couldn't help but praise him, which made Lestrange's tail stick up to the sky. This made Maureen even more curious. What kind of big shot was this so-called Bobby Singer that made these people in the Ministry of Magic so odd? It seemed that everyone was proud to know this Bobby Singer. Everyone tried to curry favor with Lestrange and asked him what his past with Bobby Singer was. Lestrange talked to everyone arrogantly, constantly boasting about his relationship with Bobby Singer. From his tone, it seemed that he had drunk with Bobby Singer yesterday. Alton couldn't listen anymore. He turned around and was about to leave. Grandpa, where are you going? Maureen asked. The bathroom. Alton left angrily. Maureen knew that Grandpa Alton must be upset. He wanted to vent his anger for his grandfather, but he was in the Ministry of Magic now. Minors were not allowed to use magic, so he couldn't do anything. He didn't want to listen to Lestrange's boasting, so he simply walked towards the corridor, ready to take a look at the scenery of the prairie. At this time, Carlo's annoying voice came over, and he walked behind Maureen. Don't worry, we won't ask your grandfather to be the butler. Carlo sneered. Compared to your grandfather, we prefer house elves. What can your grandfather do with his old bones? Can he serve us tea and water? You are looking for death? Maureen pulled out his wand and stared at Carlo coldly. You dare to attack me? Huh? Walker, do you think this is Hogwarts? You dare to cast magic outside the school? Carlo looked at Maureen fearlessly. They will expel you, Walker. You are very angry, right? If you are not afraid of being expelled, you can try it, right in the Ministry of Magic, in front of so many people. You try it. What's wrong, Carlo? Lestrange noticed the movement here, turned his head and saw Maureen pointing his wand at Carlo, and his face suddenly turned cold. Put down your dirty wand, you little brat. How dare you cast a spell on my son? Lestrange walked over quickly. His fake smile had long disappeared. Whose little brat are you? Dad, he is the grandson of the old man just now, and he wants to use magic on me for no reason. Carlo shouted, just because I told the truth, I told him that his grandfather does not meet the standards of our old servant. He wants to do it to me. Carlo has his father's support, so he is very confident. Maureen seemed to have a beast hidden in his heart. He would definitely make people like Carlo pay the price. But he did not do it, because he knew that even if he cast a spell, there would definitely be countless people here who would stop him in an instant. My son is telling the truth. If he wants to be a servant of our family, he still needs to be screened. Little beast, put down your wand, otherwise I will make you pay for it. Lestrange said viciously. Who do you want to make pay for? Lestrange, you dare to scold my grandson, huh? Alton came over angrily from a distance. When will it be your turn to teach my grandson a lesson? Do you think your family is so great? If you dare to threaten my grandson again, I promise that I will never let you go. Alton blocked Maureen behind him, pulled out his wand, pointed at Lestrange, and sparks were already bursting from the tip of his wand. Alton had endured Lestrange's insults just now, but when it came to Maureen, Alton could no longer endure it. With his protective personality, he would never give up so easily. When Lestrange was pointed at by Alton's wand, he also obviously flinched. If they really started fighting, 10 of them would not be as good as one Alton. But he still said in a timid tone, "Are you sure you want to attack me? Attack me in the Ministry of Magic? I can tell you clearly that the people I can look up to are big shots like Bobby Singer. Who do you think you are?" The latest novels are first published on the 69th book bar. Anderson and others have rushed over and pulled Alton away. Alton is usually easy to talk to and gets along with others in a friendly way, but he will not allow his grandson to be intimidated. Don't be like this, calm down, and take a step back, okay? Mr. Singer may be on the way. If he sees you like this here, the minister will be unhappy. Anderson kept pulling Alton and persuading Lestrange. Anderson, for your sake, I can let go of a stupid old man. Lestrange sneered, his triangular eyes showing arrogance. You'd better make things clear with a reckless old man. If you make a big shot like Bobby Singer unhappy, he won't be able to receive his pension in the future. Only I can save the situation by personally taking action. Anderson nodded quickly, then went to comfort Alton, and finally separated the two from the lounge and kept them at a distance. Maureen sat next to his grandfather, feeling very bad. Sorry, Grandpa. Maureen wanted to vent his anger for Alton. The Lestrange father and son were really assholes, but he couldn't do it in front of so many people. What are you apologizing for? Grandpa will support you if the sky falls. Alton forced a smile and held Maureen's hand with his rough big hand. I won't let you suffer any injustice. Maureen liked Alton's broad palm. Every time his grandfather held his hand, he felt very safe. Alton never let Maureen suffer any injustice, but sometimes, Maureen also wanted to protect his grandfather and give him a sense of security instead of hiding behind him all the time. Who is that Bobby Singer? They seem to be in awe of this big shot. Maureen couldn't help asking. Chapter 238 Rumors of the Big Shot. Alton glanced at Lestrange, who was still bragging about his close friendship with Bobby Singer, and after thinking for a moment, he said, "It's more than just awe. This man is extraordinary. It can be said that he is the most awe-inspiring wizard besides Dumbledore. But he is relatively low-key, but his magical abilities are very high. He is on par with Dumbledore. More than 10 years ago, he helped the Ministry of Magic solve a huge problem. At that time, the whole Ministry of Magic couldn't solve the problem, but he solved it with one move. Some people say that if he could stand up when Voldemort was rampant and Dumbledore left, he would at least be a person that Voldemort would fear. Then why didn't he stand up?" Maureen asked curiously. "Because he often travels around the world. He was not on the UK during that period. He is different from Dumbledore. Dumbledore has been fighting against evil all his life, but Bobby Singer prefers quietness and does not mind his own business. Anyway, big people always have some ideas of their own, and no one can figure them out. Otherwise, how can he be called a big person?" Alton was also in awe when he talked about Bobby Singer. Maureen nodded thoughtfully. Lestrange over there has been bragging to everyone about how his father made friends with Bobby Singer. His voice was very loud, and many people gathered around him to listen to his story. Lestrange would know such a person. Maureen was a little skeptical. Although people like Lestrange look annoying, we cannot deny that their ancient magic family has a solid foundation. He said that his father knew Bobby Singer, which is probably not nonsense, but should be true. Even though Alton didn't like Lestrange, he had to admit this. You have to understand one thing. As a wizard, The older the family, the more conveniences they can provide. After all, they have a lot of money and a wide network of contacts. There are not many people who can't get along with money. Big people like Bobby Singer are no exception. This kind of thing is very realistic. Rich wizards are welcomed wherever they go. But we still have to have our own backbone. Alton added. Don't worry, Grandpa, one day, I will make him pay for what he said today. Maureen clenched his fists. Those two guys dared to insult Alton, and he would not let them go easily. Don't be reckless. Grandpa doesn't want anything to happen to you. Alton touched Maureen's head and said lovingly, protecting yourself is the most important thing. On the other side, Lestrange became more and more excited, and he talked about all kinds of things with Bobby Singer at will. Anderson and others admired him more and more and listened very seriously. Yes, Mr. Singer personally designed the door of the basement for my family last time. My father used to chat and laugh with him. When Carlo spoke, Mr. Singer personally gave him a piece of precious purple agate. There is a blessing spell cast by Mr. Singer himself on it, which can bring good luck to people. My father helped Mr. Singer deal with a small trouble. Yes, he is still grateful to my father now. Lestrange talked endlessly, and Anderson and others believed that the Lestrange family really had a deep friendship with Bobby Singer. Finally, Lestrange suddenly pointed at Alton and said, "Why is this old man still here? With his personality, Mr. Singer hates him the most. If you want him to do something, you'd better drive this old man away. Otherwise, I can't guarantee how Mr. Singer will look at you." Mr. Lestrange, Alton won't talk nonsense. This point. Really? Do you know Mr. Singer or do I know Mr. Singer? Anderson, you don't want to be blamed by the minister if something goes wrong, right? Although I can say something good in front of Mr. Singer, you definitely don't want to see this happen, right? Lestrange narrowed his triangular eyes. Anderson hesitated for a moment, and seemed to think that what Lestrange said was right. He walked to Alton and smiled and said, "Alton, why don't you go back first? Things here." "What? You are the one who invited me here, and you are the one who drove me away? This is your style, isn't it, Anderson?" Alton said angrily. "That's not the case, but you have to understand that we can't make any mistakes in this matter. You were busy all day yesterday, so go back and have a good rest. Just consider it as a small favor for me, okay?" Anderson asked. "Do you really believe what he said? Are you really going to order me to leave?" Alton was already quite angry. Lestrange was not from the Ministry of Magic at all, and Alton was a retired employee of the Ministry of Magic. From time to time, he helped these juniors solve spell problems for free, but at this time, Anderson believed in Lestrange and was ready to drive him away. "Alton, for the Ministry of Magic, can you make a sacrifice, please? Please, next time I will come to your house in person." "Sacrifice? What kind of sacrifice is this? Yesterday I helped you to catch Lucas and almost lost my life. This is called sacrifice. Now you want to chase me away directly." Alton stood up suddenly, his white beard twitching with anger. "Okay, if you think so, then I can leave. You really make me feel disappointed, Anderson." Alton's chest kept heaving, and he waved to Maureen, "Let's go home." The latest novels are first published on liujishu.com. Maureen glanced at Anderson coldly. He remembered this opportunistic guy. He followed Alton silently, while Carlo was still laughing over there. "Go home quickly, we are all people who can talk to big shots, but people like you will only bring shame upon yourselves." Maureen clenched his fists. But before they reached the corridor, 3 people had already walked into the lounge, 2 of whom were Augustine, the Minister of Magic, and 1 was Quico. The 2 of them spoke to an old man with a cane very respectfully. Even Augustine, the Minister of Magic, did not dare to neglect him at all. It can be imagined how important the identity of this old man is. Maureen did not expect that the big shot they invited would come so quickly, but think about it, for wizards, going anywhere is just a matter of apparition. It is reasonable to go to Bobby Singer's house to talk about the matter and then apparition back to the Ministry of Magic immediately. But when he set his eyes on the famous big shot Bobby Singer with a cane, he opened his eyes wide in doubt. "Bobby Sing, this big shot seems a little familiar." Chapter 239 Big Shot. Arnaki Gliba. Maureen was so shocked that he even suspected that he had seen it wrong. But Arnok walked in leisurely with a cane, accompanied by Minister Augustine, and looked very contented. How could Maureen recognize the wrong person? Last semester, He practiced lightning magic, but was electrocuted by this old naughty Arnok. Every time he learned magic, he was so angry that he gritted his teeth. Although he knew that Arnok was definitely not a simple old wizard, he did not expect that Arnok would be so powerful that even the Minister of Magic had to lower himself to invite him. When Minister Augustine walked in, the other waiting staff of the Ministry of Magic immediately stood up and looked at Arnok in awe. Lestrange greeted him with a flattering look on his face, showing his fake smile. "Oh, Mr. Singer, it's an honor. It's a blessing for me to meet you. Hello, I'm Brown Lestrange." Lestrange deliberately emphasized his last name. This last name is a symbol of nobility in the wizarding world. He thought Bobby Singer must have heard of it. Carlo on the side also quickly tidied his clothes, stood beside his father with a respectful face, and made a provocative gesture to Maureen intentionally or unintentionally. Obviously, Carlo is still complacent about being able to know a big shot. You know, he is talking to a big shot that even the Minister of Magic has to curry favor with, and Maureen? He can only stand aside with his poor grandfather, envious and jealous. He thought so, but he was wrong. When Alton saw this legendary big shot, he didn't dare to say much. He pulled Maureen behind him and prepared to leave after Mr. Singer passed. But Arnok just uttered a sigh and looked in the direction of Alton, ignoring Lestrange's flattering greeting. "What's wrong, Mr. Singer?" Augustine asked hurriedly. "Isn't this?" Arnok walked leisurely towards Maureen. Lestrange's outstretched hand was still suspended in the air. He looked a little embarrassed. He didn't expect that he didn't attract Bobby Singer's attention when he mentioned the noble Lestrange surname. Instead, he walked towards Alton. "Why are you here?" Arnok said to Maureen behind Alton. "Are you talking to me, Mr. Singer?" Alton was a little surprised, because Maureen was behind him and Arnok was facing Alton directly, so he thought the famous Bobby Singer was talking to him. Lestrange was also surprised to see Bobby Singer, whom he wanted to curry favor with, talking to Alton, but he didn't think that a family like the Walker family could have any ability to know a big shot like Bobby Singer. Perhaps Bobby Singer didn't like Alton, so he suddenly felt a little gloating. Lestrange whispered to Anderson next to him, "I told you to drive away these two ignorant people. Now you regret it." Even Mr. Singer was disgusted by these two people at first sight. If the minister blames them. Anderson was also a little flustered, and even sweat beads appeared on his forehead, but he didn't understand why Arnold's first thing when he came here was to go directly to Alton. "Mr. Lestrange, this," Anderson said hurriedly. "Leave it to me." Lestrange straightened his chest, took 2 steps forward, and smiled. "Mr. Singer, if these two annoying guys have offended you, please calm down. I will drive them out immediately." "Who are you?" Arnold glanced at Lestrange. "Mr. Singer, I'm Brown Lestrange. You should have heard of the Lestrange family, right? My father is." Lestrange was confident and was about to bring up his father's name. But Arnold interrupted him impatiently. "What this difficult surname? I don't know, I'm not talking to you." Lestrange was choked and his face turned red. He thought that if he brought up the ancient surname Lestrange, even Bobby Singer would have heard of it. Who would have thought that he would be turned away? He didn't dare to speak again, but stared at Alton and his grandson fiercely. Although he was turned away, he still felt that Bobby Singer might be looking for trouble with Alton and his grandson. "What? You're still hiding? I'm asking you a question," Arnold said carelessly. Lestrange was secretly delighted. Arnold's tone was not very polite. It seemed that his guess was right. Alton and his grandson must have offended Bobby Singer at some point. Carlo on the side also looked at Maureen behind Alton jokingly. After offending a big shot like Bobby Singer, the Walker grandson and his grandson were finished. Alton was a little at a loss. He had never seen Bobby Singer before and didn't understand why Bobby Singer spoke to him in this tone. Minister Augustine also frowned. He looked at Alton and didn't understand what the feud between Alton and Bobby Singer was. Everyone looked at Alton, waiting for him to speak. Alton was a little nervous. He wiped his sweat and was thinking about how to answer when Maureen behind him said, "I came here to play with my grandfather. The latest novels are first published on 69 Shuba." "Maureen, don't talk." Alton quickly signaled to Maureen. At this inexplicable moment, it was definitely not a wise choice for Maureen to speak suddenly, especially for a child to come to a place like the Ministry of Magic and say that he was here to play. The Ministry of Magic is not for playing. Everyone looked at Maureen. Some people here knew Maureen and knew that Alton raised his grandson alone and often kept Maureen by his side. Usually, they would turn a blind eye. But when a big man like Bobby Singer was present, if a child said that he came to the Ministry of Magic to play, it would be a loss of face for the Ministry of Magic. Augustine even planned to reprimand Alton and told him not to bring Maureen here in the future to delay the work of the Ministry of Magic. But what surprised everyone was that Arnold suddenly extended his hand to Alton enthusiastically and said with a smile, "Oh, so this is your grandfather. Nice to meet you. My name is Bobby Singer." Huh? Everyone was dumbfounded. What's going on? Why would a big shot like Bobby Singer suddenly greet Alton? It should be clear that Alton's previous official position was not high, and he had been retired for several years. Although he often strolled around the Ministry of Magic, he was definitely not the kind of person who would curry favor with everyone wherever he went. Such a person with a shallow background is far inferior to an ancient family like Lestrange. However, Arnold ignored Lestrange at all, but greeted Alton happily, and this greeting was obviously, "Just met?" Whether it was Lestrange, Carlo, or Anderson who wanted to ask Alton to go back just now, they were all shocked to the point of their jaws dropping to the ground. Especially Carlo, who was originally gloating, now turned a pale red. His father, who represented the noble Lestrange family, failed to curry favor with Bobby Singer, but the Walker grandfather and grandson, who had no family background, stole the limelight. He was almost shocked to death. Chapter 240 straightforward. Alton was also shocked and didn't come back to his senses. His mind was blank for a while, and he didn't even understand what happened. It wasn't until Maureen raised Alton's arm that Alton quickly stretched out his hand and said, "Nice to meet you, Mr. Singer. I'm Alton Walker, a retired official of the Ministry of Magic. I know what you do." Arnott was very generous. He spread his hands. "Your grandson is very smart. I have seen your grandson twice before. I met him by chance when he went out to play in the park." Arnott made up an excuse so that Maureen would not be suspected. He couldn't say that Maureen violated school rules and often ran out to find him. "Have you seen Maureen?" Alton was very surprised and quickly turned sideways to pull Maureen to the front. Maureen walked out reluctantly and raised his eyebrows. "Hello, Bobby. Mr. Singer. Who is this old guy? Arnott Glib? Bobby Singer? Which one is his real name? Long time no see." Arnold patted Maureen's shoulder, looking very happy. "Yes, long time no see," Maureen said calmly, without saying anything. But Maureen really had a lot of questions about this old man. Lestrange's eyes almost popped out. As a member of the noble Lestrange family, he did not attract Bobby Singer's attention, but was stolen by a young boy? How could he tolerate this? Lestrange still did not give up, and came up again, introducing himself for the third time. "Mr. Singer, this is my son, Carlo Lestrange. My father is Eris Lestrange. I think you must have heard of him." Carlo also straightened his chest, ready to leave a good impression on Bobby Singer. But Arnold waved his hand impatiently. "You said you haven't heard of it. What's wrong with you? Is your hearing not working well?" Arnold was not polite at all. Lestrange was embarrassed again. He never expected that this Bobby Singer would be so disrespectful. If it were someone else, even if they didn't know him, they would usually respond with a few polite words like, "Oh, I've heard a lot about you," just to be polite. After all, in such occasions, everyone would show proper etiquette. But who could have thought that Bobby Singer would be so straightforward, not beating around the bush at all, saying that he didn't know him, and not giving any face, which made Lestrange embarrassed like a clown, and his warm face was rejected. Maureen knew Arnold's character very well. Arnold didn't like those polite words. He just said whatever he wanted. Anyway, he was capable, so it didn't matter what he said. Maureen was surprised and said, "Really? Mr. Singer, don't you know Lestrange? But just now, Mr. Lestrange said that you personally designed some magic for their manor, and that you gave this Carlo some agate blessing magic, and that you were chatting and laughing with his father." Arnott frowned and glanced at Lestrange. "What design of manor, blessing magic? Are you still using my name to cheat?" Lestrange's face turned green. The words he said in front of Anderson just now were completely fabricated, purely to raise his own value, so that he would be more comfortable when facing Anderson and others in the future. In his opinion, a big man like Bobby Singer must have heard of his last name. With a few polite words, Anderson and others would take his words seriously. After all, for a big man like Bobby Singer, Anderson and others would not have the time to ask whether these things were true or false. As long as he didn't say too much, he had the final say on whether it was true or false. But Maureen didn't care about face or not. He just started to sabotage, picked up a stick and slapped Lestrange's face. "Who is being polite to you? I don't have time for that." Maureen was still angry about being insulted by the two Lestranges. A descendant of Lestrange, who was born in an ancient family and was smooth, domineering and well-versed in the ways of the world, met a big man who didn't like to say polite words and was straightforward, and a completely unscrupulous child who was deliberately sabotaging. No matter how smooth Lestrange was, he was humiliated and wished he could find a crack in the ground to crawl into. "So you didn't know each other? I didn't expect that you two are such good at lying and so thick-skinned," Maureen said bluntly. "Are you going to say next that Mr. Singer is your distant third cousin, fourth uncle, and fifth chair's great-grandfather? How dare you claim to be related to Mr. Singer? You?" Lestrange was so angry that his teeth were almost broken. Adults all knew how to show mercy, but Maureen, a child of 10 years old, showed no mercy at all and exposed his hypocrisy. But he didn't dare to get angry in front of Lestrange this time. "What do you mean? Did I say something wrong? I thought you Lestrange family members would have some shame, but I didn't expect you to have no bottom line. It's amazing." Maureen didn't have any scruples. Anyway, he had already had a grudge with Lestrange and his son, so he didn't need to leave any room for himself. Carlo's face turned pale. He and his father had just been arrogant and wanted to humiliate Maureen and his grandson, but they didn't expect Maureen to know a big shot like Bobby Singer. Now they really lifted a stone to destroy their own plan. Anderson regretted it so much that his intestines turned green. He just believed Lestrange's words and thought that Lestrange was really a close friend of Bobby Singer. He listened to Lestrange's advice and asked Alton and his grandson to leave quickly. The latest novels are first published on the 69th book bar. But Bobby Singer didn't know Lestrange at all. Instead, he knew Alton, a grandson who had no money or power. Anderson realized that he had flattered the wrong person. "Is this a staff member of your Ministry of Magic? Augustine, why did you tarnish my reputation?" Arnold asked, tapping his cane. Augustine glared at Lestrange fiercely. He was trying to make connections here, but he was exposed in front of Bobby Singer. If Bobby Singer misunderstood, the reputation of the Ministry of Magic would be ruined. Augustine said quickly, "Mr. Singer, he is not a staff member of the Ministry of Magic. Don't misunderstand me. I will investigate this matter and will never let anyone tarnish your reputation." Carlo and his father looked dead, especially Carlo, who looked at Maureen with resentment. He wanted to laugh at Maureen again and again, but he never got the result. This time, he was stepped on hard, and he didn't know how big the psychological shadow area was. "I thought everyone in the Ministry of Magic had learned to cheat." Arnold snorted. Maureen held back his laughter. He was not worried that Lestrange would dare to do anything to him. After all, Alton had retired and he was studying at Hogwarts, so he did not need to worry about social etiquette. Moreover, now that everyone knew that his grandfather knew Bobby Singer, it might be too late for everyone to curry favor with his grandfather. He was very grateful to Arnold. If it were not for Arnold, who knows how arrogant the Lestrange father and son would be. Chapter 241. You come to crack. Let's go and have a look at the door of that warehouse. Who could have destroyed the door I designed? Arnott tapped his cane and walked towards the dangerous dark magic items department. When Maureen was hesitating whether to go and see what was going on, Arnott turned around and said to Maureen, "Come over too. It's not a bad thing to learn more." Maureen could only follow him helplessly. Alton was quite happy beside him. Although he didn't know when Maureen met Bobby Singer, he couldn't miss this opportunity. He also wanted to know how to crack the door of the warehouse. They walked towards the door with the griffin relief again. The Lestrange father and son wanted to join in the fun, but Alton snorted coldly, "You two are not staff members of the Ministry of Magic. What are you doing here?" Lestrange looked at Alton angrily, gritting his teeth in anger. "Are you a staff member of the Ministry of Magic?" "Alton is a retired official of the Ministry of Magic. He can come. You two should go back." Augustine glanced at Lestrange. Alton straightened his chest, glanced at Lestrange, and then strode up to catch up with Maureen and Arnold. Lestrange was furious. Lestrange was a little unwilling, but he didn't dare to say anything more. He could only whisper, "Okay, Minister." Carlo glared at Maureen fiercely. He thought he could humiliate Maureen, but he didn't expect that he would shoot himself in the foot. He never thought that the other party would know a big shot like Bobby Singer. But Maureen didn't even look at him, but ignored him directly, as if he treated Maureen as air, which made Maureen even more angry. Maureen and his group passed through the stone door with Griffin relief and came to the warehouse door with a curtain. Arnold walked over, reached out and touched the long nail nailed in the center of the curtain, and nodded thoughtfully. Then he said disdainfully, I designed this door perfectly at the beginning, how could it be destroyed? You, come here, fix this door. Arnold pointed at Maureen with his cane, and everyone looked at Maureen in surprise. Even experienced wizards like them were helpless with this warehouse door, and Bobby Singer actually let Maureen, a kid who was only in the first grade, crack it? Me? I can crack it. Not to mention Augustine and others, even Maureen himself didn't believe it. Although he learned a lot of magic from Arnold, he was going to crack a magic that all the elites of the Ministry of Magic were helpless with? Maureen was not confident enough. If you can't crack it, then, well, I like your hairstyle, Arnold said with a smile. Maureen was shocked. This old man actually threatened him with this. Maureen had no doubt that if he didn't fix it, the next time he went to Arnold to learn magic, he would probably go back to school with a big hair. But he didn't know what was wrong with this door. Mr. Singer, you know I can't use magic outside of school, right? Maureen said stiffly. It doesn't matter. I think the Ministry of Magic will make concessions. Arnold pointed at everyone present. The Minister of Magic witnessed a student using magic with his own eyes, so it would be unreasonable not to make concessions. It's not a problem to make concessions. Augustine said hesitantly, but Mr. Singer, are you sure you want to hand this over to a first-year student? Is this appropriate? This is simply too much of a joke. A bunch of experienced elite wizards are gathered in front of this door, but they can't remove the curse. Just rely on a student who has only learned magic for a year? We have to try it anyway, it won't hurt. Arnold said nonchalantly, I just taught him something last time, let's see if he has learned it. The others looked at each other, and didn't dare to raise any more objections. After all, the door to the warehouse of black magic items was designed by Bobby Singer. Now that someone has caused a problem, he has the final say on how to deal with it. Maureen pulled out the wand from his pocket. He had no idea what was going on, but he knew that this was an opportunity that Arnold had given him to try, and he needed to seize it. Well, if you want to break a spell, where do you start? Arnold tapped his cane, conjured up a chair and sat down, as if supervising. First, you need to know how the spell works and where it fails, right? Maureen said. Then you analyze how the spell on this door works. Maureen had already seen the door. He touched the long nail in the middle of the door curtain and said, this nail is a lock, and the hammer is the key. This design is really. Isn't it great? Arnold asked excitedly. What a great hammer. Maureen wanted to say it was stupid. Who opens the door with a hammer? This idea is terrible, isn't it? Great. Maureen shrugged his shoulders and said against his conscience, great. He knew that when the special hammer hit the nail, it would activate the spell under the nail and then open the door, but now he couldn't open it with a key, which meant that something was wrong. It was impossible for ordinary wizards to destroy the magic of this door by brute force, and it was impossible to break in by force. The door guard in the warehouse of dark magic items could not be damaged so easily, so the most likely thing was, the latest novel was first published on the 69th book bar. Maureen carefully touched the door curtain, from head to toe, and then felt a protruding stone on the door frame under the door curtain. He thought the stone was a bit strange, took out his wand and tapped it twice, and thought for a moment, remembering the last time Arnold taught him a method to identify the principle of the spell, he seemed to have figured something out all of a sudden. He whispered a tracing spell again, and knocked on the protruding stone. Then a white light spread out from the stone, flowed along the entire door curtain, and finally disappeared on the top door frame. Oh. I understand, that's how it is. Maureen suddenly realized. You figured it out so quickly. Arnold was very satisfied with Maureen. You have a good understanding. If I'm not mistaken, yes, there should be a problem here. Maureen knocked on the door curtain with his wand, pointed to two directions, and asked excitedly, is that so? That's right. Arnold also drew two circles with his cane. It's true. Maureen laughed. The two of them were gesturing here, but the other wizards were confused. What on earth is this? Just turning the wand twice to know where the problem is? This is too sloppy, right? Is there such a way to break magic? Augustine and the others were confused by the actions of Maureen and Arnold. They were such experienced wizards that they could not keep up with the thinking of these two people. Arnold was fine, after all, he was the famous Bobby Singer, but what was wrong with the child? Excuse me, Mr. Singer, what's the problem? Augustine couldn't help asking. Don't you understand yet? Arnold pointed at Maureen and said in confusion, he understands it. How come you don't understand it? Augustine and the others touched their foreheads. This honest Bobby Singer really didn't give them any face at all. Chapter 242 The Magic of the Warehouse Door. Maureen did not hide anything and said, the reason is very simple. We were all fooled by this door. It is not broken at all, but it was cast with a confusion spell. That's impossible. I checked it and found no trace of the confusion spell. The bearded wizard on the side retorted. That's because this door itself has all kinds of powerful magic. Your spells are invalid when cast on this door. How can an invalid spell check if there is a confusion spell on it? Maureen did not comment. Then how do we open this door? Alton could not help asking. None of them could understand what Maureen was saying. Give me the key, well, the hammer. Maureen gestured to Augustine, and Augustine handed the key to Maureen. Maureen took the bronze hammer, which was engraved with all kinds of strange patterns. It looked fancy, but he knew that these patterns were a very powerful magic engraving. Without this hammer, it would be impossible for anyone to open this door. Maureen fumbled around the nail on the door curtain for a few times, then moved his hand about 5 inches to the right of the nail, and then hit the nail with the hammer. With a click, the entire door curtain shook twice, and then returned to peace. Okay, the door is open. Maureen returned the hammer to Augustine. It's open now. Augustine felt a little unbelievable. When Maureen swung the hammer just now, he didn't even hit the nail, so how could the door be opened? You can come and see, Minister. Maureen pointed at the door curtain. Augustine walked over half believingly, lifted a corner of the door curtain, and leaned in half of his body, but this time his body did not stick out from the other side. After a moment, he pulled back and looked very surprised. It's actually open. Augustine looked at Maureen meaningfully. This was really unbelievable, but he still didn't quite understand why the nail was deviated. But Maureen had already squatted down, fumbling in the corner of the door frame for a while, and moved the protruding stone. Although I don't know what this stone is, it has used a displacement spell on the outer periphery of the warehouse door, or a confusion spell on you, probably to make you misplace the lock, so no matter how you hit the long nail with a hammer, it will be useless, because it will hit the wrong place. Maureen struggled to break off the stone. The stone was only the size of a thumb and would not attract anyone's attention at all. He showed this brown stone to everyone. Alton said in surprise, I remember this stone. This is the confusion stone. Last time a dark wizard brought it from Nigeria. The confusion spell on this stone is extremely powerful. Last time, a person was affected by this confusion stone and thought he was dead. He was a ghost, not a living person, and then jumped off the cliff, but shouldn't it be confiscated in the warehouse? So is this confusion stone so powerful? Maureen quickly let go of his hand and pointed his wand at the confusion stone. He didn't want to be affected by such a thing, and then he wouldn't even know whether he was dead or alive. Obviously, it should have been brought here from the warehouse by someone. According to that person's wishes, everyone near this door would confuse the position of this nail and deliberately prevent you from entering the warehouse. If you don't remove this stone, you will never be able to unlock it correctly even if you have the key. So it's not that the door of the warehouse is broken, but that you are under the confusion spell. Maureen explained. There was silence in the corridor, and everyone stared at Maureen in disbelief. No one expected that these well-reasoned words would come from the mouth of a first-year student. In their view, breaking a spell should be fighting violence with violence, and a spell to dispel magic is needed, but everyone saw Maureen's actions throughout the process. He even only cast a simple tracking spell. Apart from that, no magic was used, and it was completely based on reasoning. This is really amazing. But Maureen, how did you know? Alton couldn't help asking. Oh, that's it. The last time Mr. Singer saw me, he said I had a talent for breaking magic, so he gave me some book lists. I found those books in the school library and learned a lot about magic. Grandpa, now you know how well I behave in school, and I study hard every day. Maureen's tone was serious, and in order to convince everyone, he said seriously, I often study until 1 or 2 in the morning, forgetting to eat and sleep. Grandpa Alton scratched his head in confusion, looking a little unconvinced, but it seemed that there was no other reason except this statement. Bobby Singer on the side was chuckling, and seeing Maureen's serious look, he almost believed it. Okay, since the door of this warehouse has been solved, then all of you go out first. Things here are not yours to interfere with now, as long as Mr. Singer and I are here. Augustine glanced at the other Ministry of Magic staff, and they all left the place tactfully. Alton was also ready to leave. After all, it was not his business to manage what was in the warehouse. He pulled Maureen and prepared to take Maureen out as well. But Arnok said, "Mr. Walker, let me borrow your grandson for a few minutes. I get along well with him. Let me take him in to see more." Maureen looked helpless. "What does borrow a few minutes mean?" Alton said quickly, "Okay, I'm naturally relieved to let Maureen follow Mr. Singer. Maureen, you have to be obedient, and don't touch the things inside. The things inside are very dangerous." "I know, Grandpa." Maureen shrugged. The latest novels are first published on the 69th book bar. Only Augustine, Arnak and Maureen were left at the door of the warehouse. Augustine glanced at Maureen. It turned out that this child had solved the problem just now. He felt strange, but because some things in the warehouse still needed Arnak's help, thinking that Maureen seemed to be a little extraordinary, he acquiesced to Maureen staying. "Mr. Singer, you designed the magic mechanism of this gate and are most familiar with this warehouse. If necessary, please help me," Augustine said politely. "That's fine." Arnok waved his hand. Augustine had already opened the door curtain and walked in, followed by Arnak and Maureen. A warehouse that can be used to store dangerous black magic items. It is easy to imagine how strict the security is here. There are countless protective magic inside. Even with a key, it is difficult to force a breakthrough. Maureen originally thought that he would see rows of dark shelves, on which dangerous black magic items were placed in various containers and glass bottles, such as brains soaked in yellow preservatives, magic books tied with iron chains, etc. But Maureen didn't see these things. He only saw the entrance to a maze. "I designed the maze of this warehouse. Even if you have the key to come in, you still have to face this maze," Arnok said to Maureen with some complacency. "Why am I not surprised at all?" Maureen yawned. Arnold reached out and flicked Maureen's head. "You should say wow, you're awesome. There's nothing wrong with saying more compliments." Maureen said expressionlessly and dryly, "Wow, you're awesome. Your expression isn't right." Arnold flicked Maureen's head again in annoyance. "Do it again." Maureen sighed. Chapter 243 Maze. Augustine looked at the maze ahead and said, "This magic maze is very light. Even if Douglas is the director of the dangerous dark magic items department and has the key in his hand, if he is really cast with the Imperious Curse, he should not be able to take away too many dark magic items. That's not necessarily true. He must have stolen a lot." Maureen thought of Lucas yesterday. That guy had a lot of dark magic items in his hands. With those powerful dark magic items, he blocked a Muggle office building and fooled all the Ministry of Magic staff present. It was also thanks to Maureen's timely arrival, otherwise Alton would be in trouble. This is what he cares about most. "How can you be so sure?" Augustine looked at Maureen and raised his eyebrows. Maureen said calmly, "Grandpa told me yesterday when he came home that Lucas had many black magic items in his hands. My grandfather and his friends were in danger of their lives. If there were no black magic items, with so many Ministry of Magic staff, they should not be able to catch Lucas, right?" "That's right. Those Ministry of Magic staff are all experienced people." Augustine nodded slightly. He had naturally heard about what happened yesterday. The Locan magnet that could collapse a Muggle building into a sphere was originally stored in this warehouse. Their trip was to determine which items in the warehouse were stolen so that they could be prepared. But don't worry, he can't move all the items in the black magic warehouse, and it's even unlikely that he can take away 10 items. Augustine said. "Why?" Maureen asked. "You'll know in a moment." Augustine looked at the entrance to the maze. There were 7 forks in front of him, and no one knew where each fork led to. The maze was made up of old stones, and orange torches were hung on the walls at intervals, illuminating the passage slightly. "Let me see how to get through the maze." Augustine took out a golden ring from his pocket, about the size of his wrist. A pointer was suspended in the center of the ring. The pointers were of different thicknesses, and the thin end pointed to a direction. "This is a star compass." Arnok knew that Maureen didn't understand, so he explained, There are 2 star compasses in total, one at the exit of the maze. No matter where you go, the 2 pointers of the star compass will point to each other, so you can get through the maze by following the directions of the star compass. So that's how it is. Maureen looked at the star compass curiously, and he asked again, if there is no star compass, can you get through the maze? No, because the path of the maze is not fixed and changes at any time. Any magic that guides the direction is invalid here, I can guarantee this. Arnok said affirmatively. Wizards often use a wand to cast a simple spell to guide the direction, but this spell is obviously ineffective here. Then Lucas. I mean, how did Douglas, who is under the Imperious curse, pass through this maze? Maureen asked, looking at the star compass in Augustine's hand. We need to find out. Arnok frowned. They took a step forward, and the moment they stepped into the maze, Maureen was surprised to find that all the walls in front of him seemed to begin to disperse, huge stones were floating around them, and the maze fork just now disappeared. Not only that, the floor under their feet suddenly broke, and the fragments began to fall down. Below was boiling magma, which seemed to be boiling, bubbling constantly, and the hot breath came to their faces. And they were standing in the void, with a stone slab under their feet. Is it real magma below? Maureen couldn't help asking. It felt a little weird to step on a pile of magma. If he accidentally fell down, it might not be pleasant. How could it be fake? Arnok pouted. Isn't this a maze? You know, the kind of path that leads to a dead end when you walk along it. Maureen thought he was going to turn left and right like those winding corridors, but before he even started walking, those winding corridors disappeared. Who stipulated that a maze must be like that? Look at all these stones floating around, don't they also look like a maze? Arnok laughed cheerfully. Maureen pouted, why are the things designed by Arnok always different from others? Augustine had already walked in the direction indicated by the compass needle. Every time they took a step, the huge floating stones around would fly to their feet, like steps. After they walked past, the stones would automatically fly away. Douglas doesn't have this compass. Every time he wants to enter the warehouse of black magic items, he has to register and report. He asked me to apply for this compass. I don't understand how he passed this maze. Augustine said. If the star compass had been in Augustine's hands, Douglas would not have been able to walk through here even if he had the key to the door just now. This was a bit surprising. Maureen followed Arnok closely. At this time, they had been walking for about 5 minutes. When Maureen looked back, he didn't know where he had just come from. He couldn't see the entrance behind him. What if I go the wrong way? Maureen asked. If you go the wrong way, the steps will not fly over. You will definitely fall down. Maybe you will be trapped here. It depends on how you save yourself. Not everyone can come here. After all, it is a place where dangerous black magic items are stored. Arnok is very confident in his maze magic. But just as he finished speaking, Augustine, who was walking in the front, suddenly exclaimed, stepped on empty air, and fell down. Maureen was startled and was about to pull Augustine, but Augustine disappeared in front of them. Ah, no way? There's a problem now, Maureen said in surprise. The latest novels are first published on the 69th book bar. Wait a minute, don't move. Arnok frowned and motioned Maureen to stop. What's wrong? Minister Augustine fell down? Should we save him? Maureen stuck his head out and looked down. Unfortunately, there was no figure in the boiling magma below. At least there should be a sound if he fell in, right? Plop, puff, splatter, or even a sizzling barbecue sound would be normal, right? Augustine will not be in trouble. I still left some escape routes for this place to prevent my own people from getting into trouble. He is just trapped in another place, but it is not certain for others. Arnok squatted down and touched the stone slab under his feet, his face becoming heavier. Is there a problem with the star compass? Why did Minister Augustine fall down? Maureen asked puzzled. There is a problem, and it's a big problem. Arnok fumbled under the stone he was standing on for a while, and then took out a painting from under the stone. The painting showed an endless sea with an isolated island on the sea. A ship was docked next to the reef beside the island. Several sailors were sitting on the exposed reef of the isolated island with despair on their faces. One of the sailors with a sallow face said weakly, "We have lost our way. This is the end." Another sailor was shouting for help towards the sea, hoping that someone would come to save them. Another sailor suggested to put their bodies in the shape of SOS. Two people were arguing about who should put S and who should put O. Did you arrange this painting as well? Maureen looked at the sailors walking back and forth in the painting, puzzled. Why did he hang a painting in this place? What was the purpose? Arnok said solemnly, can't you see it? What do you see? Maureen looked at the painting again, and then his eyes suddenly froze, because there were two motionless people standing on the deck. The anxious expressions on their faces were very realistic, but unlike those sailors, the two people on the deck did not move. Maureen was slightly surprised. There were motionless people and moving people in the same painting. This style of painting was very familiar to him. Ping? Is this related to him again? Maureen exclaimed. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelist. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 244 The Disturbed Maze. It seems so, doesn't it? Arnok looked at the painting carefully. Just as he was about to take a closer look, the color on the painting suddenly began to darken, cracks appeared on the painting, and all the sailors screamed in fear. Their movements became slow. Whoosh! All the paint peeled off the painting, turned into a pile of powder, scattered below and disappeared. What happened? Maureen looked at the empty canvas in surprise. The sea and the stranded sailors on the canvas had disappeared. Pianget is very cautious. He doesn't want people to know that he has been here. Arnok stroked the blank canvas with his fingers and said in a deep voice, as long as someone touches this painting, the painting will automatically be destroyed. Destroy? Maureen asked puzzledly. If he didn't want people to know that he was here, why did he leave this painting? Arnok snorted lightly. That's because he had to find a way to pass through my maze. He didn't have a star compass, but he hid in the painting and used the direction magic in the painting as a star compass. Maureen had to admit that Pianget, an old monster who had lived for hundreds of years, was really amazing. You know, any magic that guides the direction doesn't work here, but many rules in the painting are different from reality, and many magics are also different. Maureen has experienced this. Why wait until now to destroy the painting? Maureen asked again. Arnok took out the wand from his pocket and pointed at the floating stones around. All the stones turned over. Maureen found that there was a painting under more than a dozen large stones. If Arnok was not there, I'm afraid that even the staff of the Ministry of Magic might not be able to find it. I still have some confidence in my magic. Arnok said, he can't destroy my magic directly, so he has to leave his paintings as marks along the way. Only in this way can he know how to get out. And it is the connection between these paintings that causes problems with the instructions of the star compass, so Augustine went the wrong way. If I hadn't discovered these tricks, I'm afraid these paintings would not be destroyed, they would completely block the way in. Maureen nodded slightly, so he cast the Imperious Curse on Douglas and used these paintings to help Douglas pass through your maze. Almost, but it is not easy for him to cast the Imperious Curse on people outside the painting in the painting. You should know that the Imperious Curse can be resisted. Your magical willpower must be stronger than the other party. Pianget can't do this in the painting. He is very likely to use the time converter to steal other people's time again. Arnok glanced at the stones with paintings on them. Many of the paintings had already been reduced to blanks, and the paint had fallen off. If Arnok hadn't caught a painting that hadn't fallen off in time, they wouldn't even have been able to recognize that it was a painting by Pianget. Mr. Arnok, Minister Augustine seems to respect you very much. If you tell him about Pianget, he might believe it. Maureen said. He won't believe it. It's different from whether he respects me or not. Arnok shook his head and said, he respects me because I can help him solve some problems, but it doesn't mean I can influence his thoughts. Pianget is an unstable factor. If there is no evidence, he won't take it seriously, otherwise it will cause panic among the wizards and he will be at risk of stepping down. It is important to understand that he is a politician. Politicians have their own calculations and only believe in things that are beneficial to them. They are more shrewd. What about me? I'm just an old man who likes quietness, and my words don't carry much weight. Yes, old man Bobby Singh, I don't doubt it at all. Maureen yawned. Arnok took a step forward, and Maureen only felt that his body seemed to be squeezed, and then he was standing on solid ground again. In front of him was a dim room, and the front seemed to be shrouded by a hazy black fog, and he couldn't see clearly what was there. Okay, we're here. Arnok said. Then why didn't you bring us here earlier? Do you still need to use the star compass? Maureen muttered. Isn't this to broaden your horizons? Arnok waved his wand again, and the wall behind creaked, revealing an archway. Augustine ran out of the wall, looking relieved. Great, I finally got out. I was going to use the escape magic you mentioned to leave here. Mr. Singer, what happened just now? Why didn't the star compass work? Augustine asked, holding the star compass in his hand. Someone used magic to block the attraction between the star compasses, making them ineffective and guiding the wrong direction. Arnok said. The latest novels are first published on 69 Shuba. Who has such great ability? Mr. Singer, he can even interfere with your maze. Augustine looked a little surprised. He knew very well how powerful the old man with a cane was. Pangad, I remember telling you last time. Arnok said. Pangad? Mr. Singer, you are joking. Augustine laughed dryly twice. That man has been dead for hundreds of years. Let's not joke about this. Arnok glanced at Maureen, who shrugged his shoulders. Arnok was too lazy to explain anything more and continued, go and check which black magic items are missing. Yes, this is the real business. Augustine put away the star compass and walked quickly towards the darkness in front. Let's go take a look too. Follow me closely. Don't touch anything you see. Anything that can be placed here is very dangerous. Arnok also walked towards the black fog in front of the room. Maureen was not careless. His grandfather and Arnok had warned him so the things here must be extraordinary. He didn't want to die in vain. Chapter 245 Dangerous Dark Magic Items. Maureen followed Arnok and passed through the strange black fog. The black fog was a kind of thing that washed away the camouflage magic. Any wizard who used camouflage magic to change his appearance would be forced to show his true form after passing through the black fog. After passing through the black fog, a dim hall came into view. The gray light shone on the body, and there was even a chilly feeling. The floor was paved with black marble, and the marble flashed strange halos from time to time. There were many cylindrical stone platforms here. These stone platforms were about 1 meter high. A griffin was carved on the side of each stone platform, just like the relief they saw when they walked in just now. The griffin stared at them with a warning in its eyes. Various strange things were placed on the stone platform. On the stone platform in front of Maureen was a book with a red cover. About 2 inches behind, it said Secrets Buried Deep Underground. When Maureen saw this book for the first time, he actually had the urge to walk over and open the book to see what it was. The method of making the inferi, this book is extremely dangerous. The inferi are sealed inside. Don't read it for too long. It will attract your attention. When you open the book, the words in the book will seduce you to become interested in the inferi, and then induce you to kill people and make the inferi according to the steps in the book. Arnok reminded. What a weird thing. Maureen took his eyes away from the book. It was not easy, because he was attracted by the book at the first glance, even if he only looked at the cover. Magic books are really scary. If they are placed here like this, wouldn't it be easy to steal them? Maureen asked, looking around at the countless black magic items. It's not that easy for ordinary wizards to steal them. Watch. Arnok raised his cane and poked at the stone platform on the left where a ghost head mask was placed. Before his cane could stab it, the griffin relief on the stone platform suddenly flapped its wings, flew up, and squeaked sharply, pecking at Arnok's cane fiercely. After Arnok retracted his cane, the griffin hovered low over the stone platform, guarding the things on the stone platform. The black magic items placed here are very powerful and cannot be destroyed. The guardian griffin on the stone platform is very powerful. It is immune to ordinary magic. Your attack spells and transformation spells are ineffective against it. Only very special and powerful spells can defeat the guardian griffin. Arnok explained. Augustine has been walking between the stone platforms in front of him, stopping from time to time to record. The guardian griffins on several stone platforms have been smashed to pieces, leaving only half of their bodies, drooping their heads weakly on the ground, making unwilling calls. It takes a lot of effort for ordinary wizards to deal with these guardian griffins, but Piang is obviously not an ordinary wizard. It can be seen that there are indeed many dangerous black magic items stolen by Piang. Maureen walked carefully past a bloody head. This head was a man, as if he had just been chopped off. The most bizarre thing is that this head occasionally makes a sinister laugh, and it will blink and stare at Maureen strangely, with its eyeballs constantly turning, looking like a living person. That is the head of a wizard who has been sacrificed by black magic. This head is very scary. If you talk to it, it will confuse your mind and make you cut off your head yourself. Then this head will jump onto your neck and occupy your body. Arnok explained as he walked. Maureen took a breath and said, "Is this a joke, Mr. Arnok?" "Oh no, it's not a joke. After it occupies someone's body for a period of time, it will look for the next target. 3 Muggles died this way before." Arnok said simply, "Everything in this warehouse is not a joke. I have said that only very dangerous and indestructible black magic items will be sent to this warehouse." Maureen looked at the head. At this time, the head was laughing. When it laughed, the gaps between its teeth were stained with blood. "I know what's on your mind. I can solve your problem." The bloody head was speaking in a very friendly voice. This voice was irresistible. Maureen even wanted to rush over and hold the head up to tell it all his thoughts. But he forcibly held back and looked away again. "I don't like this place." Maureen swallowed his saliva. No one would like this place, especially this kind of black magic, which should not be exposed to you too early. Arnok was very calm about these black magic items, "But I consider that you are not young anymore. You should learn something." "I'm only 12 years old." Maureen was shocked. What does not young anymore mean? Age is not a problem. You have to understand one thing. Peeing is several times more dangerous than all the items here. Arnok patted Maureen on the shoulder. "You can't always live in the greenhouse education of school. This is too cruel." "Isn't greenhouse education good?" Maureen muttered. "You know, study hard, make progress every day, abide by the law, and grow up happily." Arnok couldn't help but reach out and flick Maureen's head again. They continued to move forward. Augustine walked around, and then stood in front of a broken stone platform with a serious face. The griffin on this stone platform was blown into powder. 6 items are missing. Augustine's face was solemn. A notebook was floating in the air beside him, and a fountain pen was automatically recording the missing black magic items. "Only 6 items are missing? There are so many dangerous and powerful things here, and he only took 6. Maureen was surprised. The latest novels are first published on the 69th book bar. Augustine glanced at Maureen. In fact, he always thought that it was not a good idea to bring a child here. After all, children in the 1st and 2nd grades should not be exposed to black magic. But Arnold and Maureen had a close relationship, so he agreed. Augustine said, "Because if more than 6 dark magic items leave the stone platform at the same time, the alarm of the entire Ministry of Magic will be triggered and the place will be locked." The thief who came in was very cunning, and he understood this principle, so he could only take 6 things away. Sometimes the Ministry of Magic also needs to take dark magic items for some research, so they are often borrowed by staff, but in order to prevent any mistakes, only a maximum of 6 dark magic items are allowed to be taken out at a time. Which 6 dark magic items are they? Arnold had expected this result a long time ago, and he was not surprised at all. Hippocrates bandage, cloth quill pen, purple wood violin, black box, and the confusion stone we just picked up at the door, and the big trouble that you helped Mr. Singh solve that year, that is, the most dangerous Locan magnet. Augustine's face was extremely gloomy, especially the last one. When this Locan magnet appeared, it caused great trouble to the Ministry of Magic. Unexpectedly, it was lost again this time. Maureen was slightly surprised. It turned out that the mysterious person who solved the disaster caused by the lock magnet was Arnok. Chapter 246 Black Box. "Mr. Singer, did you solve the problem of the lock magnet?" Maureen asked in surprise. Maureen remembered that he and his grandfather Alton were looking up the report on the lock magnet last night. It mentioned that when the magnet first appeared, the entire Ministry of Magic was helpless against it, and it also caused many Muggles to kill each other. In the end, a mysterious wizard helped. But the document on the lock magnet did not mention who this person was. Even Alton did not know. Maureen did not expect that this person would be Arnok. "Well, that magnet is not a good thing." Arnok stroked his beard and said thoughtfully, "We need to find it as soon as possible. If we can't control its magical power, the Muggle world will fall into chaos." "I understand that. At that time, we may need your help." After all, the stone was. Augustine knew the importance of this matter. The reason why he respected Bobby Singer so much was because he knew that this old man was very extraordinary and could help him solve many problems. "The other 4 black magics are also dangerous, right?" Maureen asked. "That's right." Anik nodded. I remember that Hippocrates bandages can pass on one's own illness and pain to others. I've also heard of the Jeb Quill pen, a black magic item that can create all kinds of very powerful magic traps, such as creating volcanoes, swamps, ice and snow, or turn leaves into monsters that attack people. Maureen remembered those difficult leaves and strange swamps yesterday. It turned out that those things were made by the Jeb Quill pen. Augustine and Anik both turned their heads to look at Maureen. Grandpa told me. Maureen spread his hands. Then what are the purple wood violin and the black box? Anik asked. Some powerful black magic items are confiscated here every year, and Anik can't know them all. The purple wood violin is a dangerous instrument. The instruments it plays can make people have all kinds of extreme thoughts. Joyful music can make people excited to death, sad tunes can make people desperate to death, and gentle piano sounds can make people's heartbeats slow down until they stop. Augustine said seriously. Maureen couldn't help swallowing her saliva. Compared with these weird things, the black magic items that Professor Francis talked about in school were child's play. What about the black box? Arnok asked again. I don't know. We don't even know where it came from. We only know that it was accidentally found in the wall of an old house. When we opened it, we only saw a cloud of black smoke. No matter what spell we used, we couldn't dispel it, and we didn't know what it was. For unknown things, we would choose to destroy them directly, but it's a pity that it can't be destroyed, so after thinking it over again and again, we put it here for safekeeping. Augustine explained. Found it in the wall? What does it look like? Maureen asked. He remembered clearly that the reason why Lucas stayed in the Muggle office building was to find a black box. At that time, Maureen thought that the black box was a brick. Why are you asking this? Augustine didn't really want to answer Maureen's question. After all, these things belonged to the Ministry of Magic's top secrets. Arnak glanced at Maureen and said, to be honest, I want to know too. Maybe I can help you find it. It would be best if Mr. Singer could help. This black box should look like this in my memory. Augustine waved his wand and used magic to condense a shadow in the air. He used magic to outline the black box based on his memory. Maureen's eyes flickered slightly. It was indeed the thing he saw in the Muggle office building yesterday. Lucas was actually looking for this thing? Augustine checked again and confirmed that only these 5 things were stolen. Since the lost items have been identified, let's go out and see if we can find the controlled Douglas. Maybe he knows something. Arnak said. They left the warehouse, and Arnak repaired the maze they came in from, and cast a special magic on Paingurd's painting to prevent Paingurd from breaking in again. I don't expect this to be a defense, after all, he knows a lot. Arnak reinforced the magic of the door, and Maureen watched Arnak perform magic and asked about the principles of these magics. When they left the Ministry of Magic, the Lestranges saw Maureen and Bobby Singer talking and laughing, and their eyes were red with jealousy. But Maureen didn't even bother to look at them, and treated them as air. Lestrange wanted to curry favor with the famous Bobby Singer, but he didn't expect that he didn't take them seriously at all. Arnak borrowed Maureen from Alton again, probably to invite Maureen to their home and teach him some magic. Although Alton didn't understand why the famous Bobby Singer got along so well with his grandson, Alton didn't object, because he knew that Bobby Singer would not do anything to Maureen. Arnak said to Alton with a smile, I won't lose your grandson, you can rest assured about that. Oh, I'm not worried that he will get lost. To be honest, he is unlikely to get lost. He is smarter than an owl. The latest novels are first published on 6th Book Bar. Just some? Grandpa, I can only compete with owls. Maureen said helplessly, I didn't get it as a gift when you bought the chocolate frog collection card. Yes, don't interrupt, I'm worried that you are too naughty. Alton squatted down to help Maureen tidy up his clothes, and reminded him, when you visit someone's house, you must pay attention to etiquette and say hello when you meet people, understand? Got it, I will. Maureen nodded. He had been to Arnak's house countless times and was very familiar with the place. Arnak paraded with Maureen to Hogsmeade Village, and Madame Rhea enthusiastically took out a bunch of snacks to entertain Maureen. Maureen told Arnak what he saw yesterday. So Lucas is looking for the black box. Arnak said in surprise. It should be, and he should have got 4 by now. I remember he said so. Maureen frowned, thought for a moment, and then said, and what about the box? I think it has something to do with the lock's magnet, because Lucas relied on the lock's magnet to find the whereabouts of the black box, and the box seems to be talking to me. Talking to you? Arnok tapped his fingers lightly on the table, his blue eyes staring at the teacup, as if he was thinking about something. Chapter 247 Moon. Yes, at that time I didn't know how to deal with the strong section of the lock magnet, and then I seemed to hear some hints from the black box, and I suddenly realized that I had to use lightning magic to crack a lock magnet. It's not in vain that I taught you, you actually know lightning magic. Arnok looked a little surprised. Lightning magic may not be able to crack it, you need to grasp a certain opportunity, too. Cut in at a certain angle, I know, I saw that point clearly at that time. Maureen himself didn't quite understand it, the idea just came up suddenly, and he saw it clearly. Lady Rhea was surprised. The old man observed for several hours before discovering the weakness of the magnet. You suddenly realized it. Maureen nodded. Arnok and Lady Rhea looked at each other, a little puzzled. What exactly is the lock magnet? It has such a powerful black magic. I mean, who is so powerful that he can create such a terrible thing that can swallow a mountain? Maureen asked. This is what we have always wanted to know. Arnok said. Maureen thought for a moment and said, oh, there is one more thing. I feel very strange. It started during the summer vacation. I don't know if it's my hallucination or something else. It has happened 3 times. I see some people with glowing eyes. How do they say that? They can walk around on the walls and ceilings. It's very strange. Do you know what that is? Maureen gave a piece of biscuit to Doi and said, Doi saw it too. Doi held a biscuit in her little paws and kept nodding her head, as if she was agreeing with Maureen's words, because she saw the same scene as Maureen. People walking around on the walls and ceilings? Is it the inversion spell? Arnok asked. I don't think so, because that feeling, how should I put it? It's as if their lifestyle is different from ours. Maureen felt that he couldn't explain it clearly. Maybe it's my hallucination. After all, I was in a Muggle place at the time, and then I seemed to go to another place in a blink of an eye. I also saw 2 moons in the sky, and then a group of strange creatures flew in the sky and fought. Wait, what were you talking about just now? Lady Rhea interrupted Maureen. There are a group of strange creatures fighting. No, you just said there are 2 moons. Mrs. Rhea was a little surprised. She turned her head and looked at Arnok. She found that Arnok also opened his mouth slightly, looking a little incredible. What's wrong? Is this an illusion? Maureen felt that the reaction of Arnok and his wife was not right. 2 moons? God? This is a little familiar, isn't it, old man? Mrs. Rhea glanced at Arnok. But it's impossible, how could that be? This stupid boy can't go too. I mean, how can he go to that place? Arnok was shocked. Can you translate it? I don't quite understand. Maureen looked at Arnok and Mrs. Rhea in confusion. He thought the focus was on the strange people with glowing eyes and who could fly over the eaves and walls that he met, but Arnok and his wife focused on the 2 moons. What do the 2 moons look like? Arnok asked impatiently. Maureen thought about it and said, those 2 moons are very strange. Anyway, if the 2 moons are put together, it will be a perfect full moon. Is it true? Arnok pulled his beard hard and muttered to himself. It should be. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, he wouldn't know this. But is it true? Old man, I've never heard of it. Mrs. Rhea, who usually seemed slow and methodical, was a little out of control. Maureen remembered something and asked, wait, from what you said, did that Evan encounter the same situation before? Evan and he had the same ability, so Maureen couldn't help but think of him. It has nothing to do with Evan. This matter is very strange. I don't know how to explain it to you, but you have to remember that if you encounter the same thing next time, you must find a way to leave as soon as possible and can't stay in that illusion. We must go to confirm this. Arnok stood up and knocked over his crutches, but Arnok didn't care about the crutches at all. He hurried upstairs in his slippers. Do you think it was an illusion too? Maureen asked. It's not an illusion. It depends on how you look at it. You should go back, dear. Remember, don't mention it to anyone. Just pretend it never happened. Mrs. Rhea seemed uneasy. She wanted to say something but stopped. She wanted to say something, but she felt it was not appropriate to tell Maureen. Can't you tell me? Maureen said. You have to know that this world is far from as simple as you think. You usually just stay in school and don't come into contact with much. Mrs. Rhea hesitated, and then became a little uneasy, but this shouldn't happen. There must be something wrong. The old man and I may have to leave for a while to do something. When we come back, we will contact you. But you don't care about the lock magnet? That person stole the lock magnet. Maureen was a little stunned. The reaction of the Arnag couple today was too weird, right? He originally thought that Arnag would take a lock magnet seriously. After all, that thing caused a great disaster. The latest novels are first published on 69 Shuba. I'll leave it to you. You have to find a way to stop Lucas and get the magnet back while protecting yourself. Arnold hurried down from upstairs again. He was carrying a travel bag. It seemed that he had packed his luggage in just a moment. Leave it to me? Mr. Arnold, you should remember that I am just a child who will go to the 2nd grade, right? Maureen said. Then you should stay in school and study hard. Arnold muttered as he stuffed a recliner into his backpack. If you can stay. Oh, I can stay, of course I can stay. I love school the most. I don't want to leave school. Maureen sat down at the table, propped his chin with his hand, yawned, and watched Arnold and Mrs. Rhea packing their things boredly. Madame Rhea waved her wand, and many clothes from upstairs floated down by themselves, folded them, and went into her handbag. Remember, protect yourself well. If you can't beat Lucas, just run away. You just need to stop him from using the magnet. Don't get into trouble. Arnag knew that Maureen couldn't stay there. It would be strange if he could stay in school honestly. Can't you tell me clearly where you are going? Maureen picked up another biscuit and bit it, saying, I don't understand why you are packing up. Can't you come back to sleep at night? You will be back soon after apparition, right? Apparition has restrictions in some places. Okay, we are leaving. Wait for our news and go home. The biscuits on the plate are all for you. Don't be touched. It's a bargain for you. The crutches on the ground have floated to Arnag's hands, and he put on a white hat. Give them all to me? I am so touched. If you tell me some truth, I will be more touched. Maureen pouted and swept all the biscuits into his pocket without hesitation. Doy looked very happy. I got up at 5:30, couldn't sleep, decided to update 3 chapters, and make up 5,000 recommendation votes. Chapter 248 School starts. The rest of the summer vacation seemed to be missing something from Maureen. He had been paying attention to the news about Lucas, but Lucas seemed to have stopped, and no Muggle buildings collapsed into a ball. He should know that the Ministry of Magic has issued a wanted order. If he dares to show up, he will be sent to Azkaban. Alton had also been waiting for news from the Ministry of Magic, ready to run over and give Lucas a good beating. Now that the Ministry of Magic has issued a wanted order for Lucas everywhere, Lucas wisely did not show up again. Douglas, the director of the Department of Dangerous Dark Magical Objects, was still missing, and this incident had caused quite a stir. The Daily Prophet was promoting conspiracy theories, and various senior wizard critics jumped out to accuse him. Yes, we have solid information that Douglas is a hidden Death Eater. He has stolen many dangerous black magic items and is now on the run in Egypt. A while ago, a travel buddy of mine in Egypt saw Douglas sneaking around the statue of Horus. No kidding, if you can roll up his sleeves, you will definitely find a skull mark of the Dark Devil. Maureen was reading the report on the Daily Prophet. Conspiracy theorist Graves was expressing his opinion on this matter. He also vowed that he had obtained solid evidence of the Death Eaters and would announce it at the right time. What the hell is a conspiracy theorist? Maureen closed the Daily Prophet, which he had just received from Edmund. Edmund was in charge of maintaining order at the train station. Today is the first day of school on September 1st. In order to prevent the last attack on the Hogwarts train from happening again, the Ministry of Magic sent a number of Ministry of Magic staff to supervise here. Edmund dressed up as a Muggle train station guard and gave the Muggle-born freshmen instructions on how to get to Platform 9. What? The train to York? I don't know which platform to take it. Edmund waved his hand at a young Muggle passenger in a gruff voice. Aren't you a guard? How come I don't know? The young passenger said angrily. Who says that guards must know? What's your logic? I only know it's to Hogwarts. Edmund said impatiently. Your attitude is too bad. I will complain to you. The young Muggle passenger left angrily. What a Muggle. Edmund stood between Platform 9 and Platform 10, turned around and continued to discuss the progress of Lucas's matter with Alton. Maureen looked around on the Muggle platform with his luggage. He talked to Anrin on the phone. Anrin would probably come at this time. 5 minutes later, he quickly found Anrin and her parents among the crowded passengers. Anrin, I'm here. Maureen ran over with his luggage. Great, Maureen. Anrin was obviously relieved when she saw Maureen. She was very nervous at first. I don't know where Platform 9 is. Dad is still worried that we were fooled. Behind Anran stood his parents, who looked very reserved. Anran's father was wearing a white shirt and black hair. He looked very energetic. He looked at Maureen, who ran over with some doubts. Mr. Brill, Mrs. Brill, hello, my name is Maureen Walker. I met Anran at the summer camp. Maureen said politely. He knew that Anran's last name was Brill. Anran's father, Mr. Brill, said hesitantly, so you are also that. Can you fix the toilet? Can you fix the toilet? Maureen blinked in surprise. Although he should be able to fix the toilet, why did he ask such a strange question when he met him? Is this a Muggle greeting? How should I answer? Yes, I am a wizard who can fix toilets. Probably, I can fix, the toilet. Oh, by the way, I'm Maureen Walker, a year older than Anran. Maureen patted her luggage. I don't know if this is a good idea, after all, Anran should go to school in our place, but Mr. Briar said hesitantly. He was still quite worried about Anran going to a strange place to learn so-called magic. Anran is a wizard, she should go to Hogwarts, believe me, Mr. Briar, it won't be wrong. Maureen said, and then asked Anran, who went to your house to explain the situation last time? I remember that the school would send someone to explain it clearly. He said his name is Professor Flitwick, he's a little short. Anran said, but he's a very nice person. He also took us to a place in Diagon Alley to buy things, and I also have a wand of my own, look. Anran couldn't wait to take out her wand to show Maureen. She was very happy, at least with this wand. It was enough to prove that everything was not a joke. If Anran hadn't done some magical things with this wand, I might not believe in wizards. Mr. Briar said reluctantly. So can you do magic, Maureen? Mrs. Briar asked beside him. Yes, I can. Maureen nodded and took out the wand, looked around, and put the wand back into his pocket. But we can't use magic casually in the Muggle, your place. At least not in this platform. We have to go to the wizard platform. Maureen, what are you doing here? Alton came over and asked. The latest novels are first published on the 69th book bar. Grandpa, I told you that they are Anran's parents. Maureen quickly introduced Alton to the Briar couple. Muggles, great. I used to know a few parents of Muggle students, but they have very strange tempers. Hello, my name is Alton Walker. I am Maureen's grandfather. This is Anran, right? What a clever child. Alton enthusiastically stretched out his hand and shook it with Mr. Brill. Alton looked at the tablet in Mrs. Brill's hand curiously and said happily, I have heard of this. What is this, Abba? Right. It seems to be able to make calls. You Muggles are really smart. Mr. Brill saw that Alton was so enthusiastic and made a fuss about a tablet, like a country bumpkin who had never seen the world, which made them even more uneasy. The wizard seemed a little unreliable. The couple looked at each other, not knowing what to say, and could only force a smile. Oh, don't worry, I'm just curious. This thing is of no use to us. Sorry, don't you know how to get to the platform? Many Muggle-born children don't know. Come on, I'll take you there. Alton waved to Mr. and Mrs. Brill. Maureen whispered helplessly to Anran, my grandfather only half knows about Muggles, but he doesn't mean any harm. I know, Professor Flitwick was like that last time too. When he came to our house, he was very interested in the vacuum cleaner, but he was very good. He helped us fix the toilet that was often blocked with just a tap of his wand. My mother felt that with a wizard at home, at least she wouldn't have to worry about looking for a repairman when something broke. Anran laughed secretly. Oh, no wonder your father asked me if I could fix the toilet as soon as we met. Maureen suddenly realized. At first, he thought that Muggles would use toilet as a greeting when they met. Chapter 249 Back to School. Together, they passed through the secret wall and came to the bustling platform. The scarlet train was whistling, and countless students were running around on the platform. There were also parents there telling their children to study magic seriously in school and to cover themselves with quilts when they went to school at night. The Briar couple was shocked by the many wizards in strange costumes on the platform. They were so surprised to see all kinds of magic toys floating around. They had never experienced such a thing before. Because magic can be performed on the train platform, many students who have been holding back for a summer vacation can't wait to take out their wands and play around. From time to time, there were some fireworks running around, and paper planes shuttled through the crowd, and soon they exploded into pieces. One student even used the magic wand to make snowflakes float in the air. A guard blew a whistle, shouted loudly, and used the magic wand to eliminate the snowflakes. It was also the first time that Ayn Rand had seen so many wizards and students. She looked very excited and was very curious about all the magic on the train platform. "Mom, I'll be fine. Don't worry. I'm not a freak." Ayn Rand was saying goodbye to her parents. Mrs. Brill was going to give Ayn Rand a tablet computer, saying it could help with her studies, but Alton reminded her that this thing couldn't be used at Hogwarts, so they had to take it back. "Have a good new semester, Maureen, and remember to eat the butter biscuits quickly." Alton waved. "I will, Grandpa, bye." Maureen also waved to Alton, then climbed onto the train, found an empty carriage, and sat by the window with Ayn Rand. Soon Maureen saw Hugo and Lily in the crowd, and quickly called them up. "Hey, Ayn Rand, see you again, this is Lily." Hugo threw his luggage on the shelf and greeted Ayn Rand. Lily and Ayn Rand also got to know each other, and said to Maureen and Hugo, "I think you must have learned a lot of Muggle knowledge in this summer camp? Don't tell me that you just met Ayn Rand." "It's great to meet Ayn Rand." Maureen looked away guiltily. All the things he couldn't solve in the summer camp were solved by magic. As for learning Muggle knowledge, let's not talk about it. Hugo said confidently beside him, "Nonsense, I've said it, I'm now a Muggle expert. If you don't believe me, you can test my Muggle knowledge at will, such as what Muggle tractors are used for." "What are tractors used for?" Lily raised her eyebrows. "It's used for." Hugo was speechless. He tilted his head and thought for a moment. "This question doesn't count. You can ask other questions, such as what Muggle fighter jets are used for." "Then what are fighter jets used for?" Lily asked again unhappily. "It's used. Maureen said it last time, let me think." "Oh, Lily, why do you always ask these meaningless questions? You're really looking for trouble." "Ayn Rand, did you have a good summer vacation? You must have practiced magic when you went home, right?" Hugo quickly changed the subject. Lily and Hugo were arguing along the way, while Ayn Rand excitedly asked Maureen all kinds of questions about Hogwarts, eager to know what she would face next. When talking about the sorting, Ayn Rand was thinking about which college she would go to. "Does it have anything to do with my family? Are your families in the same college?" Ayn Rand asked. "Anyway, Lily and I are from Gryffindor," Hugo said. Maureen shrugged her shoulders. "It has nothing to do with my family. My grandfather and father are from Gryffindor, and my grandmother and mother are from Ravenclaw. Don't worry, you can't go to Slytherin. Slytherin doesn't accept students from Muggle-born schools, so there are only 3 schools left. It doesn't matter which school you go to. The teachers are the same. Your study of magic is related to yourself," Lily said. They took a train for a day. On the way, Hugo took out the fountain box he got from the joke shop. The water droplets sprayed from it were suspended in the air and floated in the entire carriage without getting anything wet. It was a very interesting decoration. In the evening, they finally arrived at the train station in Hogsmeade Village. Hagrid was there to greet the first-year students. Ayn Rand followed Hagrid to take a boat to visit the statue of the reverse waterfall. Maureen and the other 3 walked towards the carriage. "I bet you that when Hagrid arrives in the hall, his face must be covered with tears," Hugo said, looking at Hagrid's huge back. "Shut up. You like to joke about this as much as James and the others." Lily looked up and finally found an empty carriage. "Hurry up, Maureen, I'm hungry, and the roasted lamb legs at school miss me." Hugo climbed onto the carriage. The carriage was bumpy all the way. The sun had already set, and the afterglow of dusk shone on the forest path, dragging the shadow of the carriage very long. The sound of the wheels of the carriage rolling over the leaves in the forest was particularly clear, and from time to time there were birds flying over the treetops. They could already see the sharp corners of the tower of Hogwarts School. Maureen and the other 2 were discussing who would be the professor of the Muggle Studies class in the new semester. After all, Professor Charles had resigned, and they needed a new teacher. But at this moment, a huge explosion came from the direction of the Forbidden Forest, rumbling, and the ground trembled slightly twice. Then countless birds in the sky above the Forbidden Forest flapped their wings and rushed into the sky in a panic, and countless unclear shouts rang out from the depths of the Forbidden Forest. "What's wrong?" Maureen poked his head out of the carriage curiously. They had already arrived at the gate of the castle and could see the commotion in the Forbidden Forest. "I don't know. Is there something wrong in the Forbidden Forest?" Hugo asked in surprise. "The latest novels are first published on the 6th-9th book bar. Not only them, But all the students got off the carriage and discussed with each other. Here it comes again, really. It's the third time, can't you be more quiet? Everyone hurry in, the dinner is about to start. Professor Flitwick was counting the number of people at the door with a long list. Everyone only needed to click their ones on Professor Flitwick's list to sign in. What did you do for the third time? Maureen asked in a low voice. They stood in the middle of the team, waiting to enter the school. Many students didn't understand what Professor Flitwick was talking about. Some students raised their hands to ask Professor Flitwick, but Professor Flitwick waved his hand. Not now, Peter. It's too much trouble for me to explain it over and over again. The headmaster will explain the situation to you when the banquet starts. Hurry up and take out your wands. Professor Flitwick urged. They entered the school with a lot of questions in their minds, squeezed in the bustling crowd, and passed through the stairs beside the Quidditch field. The Hogwarts castle was on the top of the hill. But the students in front gathered together, pointing and talking, as if they were attracted by something and blocked the road. The students behind were shouting, asking the people in front to move quickly. Hey! What are you waiting for? Hugo shouted, can you leave a way for the hungry people to survive? Merlin looked at the crowd in front of him in confusion. Soon he found that everyone stopped halfway up the hill and discussed enthusiastically about a certain place. Merlin looked in the direction they were pointing and discussing, and was slightly stunned. Hugo, that place. Merlin said in surprise, it seems that there was no such place when I left school last semester. Chapter 250 Rumors about the Stone Arch. Below the Hogwarts castle, there was originally an exposed rock slope, with weeds growing in many cracks between the rubble and several willow trees leaning. People usually didn't pay much attention to that place. But now there is a strange stone arch standing abruptly there. This stone arch is square, about 3 meters long and 2 meters wide. The style is very simple and old, and even the stone looks like it has been weathered. There are 4 very large statues around this door. A majestic Gryffindor lion stands on the left side of the stone arch, a Hufflepuff badger leans on the right side of the stone arch, a Slytherin snake with its tongue sticking out is coiled on one corner above the stone arch, and on the other corner above is a Ravenclaw eagle with its wings spread out, ready to fly. These 4 animals, symbolizing the 4 colleges of Hogwarts, are like guarding this stone door. Each animal stone sculpture is lifelike, as if it will move at the next moment. What surprised Maureen the most was not the symbols of the 4 colleges, but this stone arch. He had seen this stone arch in Piang's memory. When Piang broke into the Department of Mysteries, he said that he wanted to let the glory of this stone arch shine on the world again. At this time, the stone arch on the slope was exactly the same as the stone arch that Maureen saw in the Department of Mysteries. The only thing missing was the curtain hanging on the stone arch. Maureen was shocked when he saw this stone arch. The last time Arnold talked to him about the origin of this stone arch, it was said that after the 4 founders of Hogwarts opened this door, they closed it again. No one knew what they saw behind this door, but this stone arch was strictly kept in the Department of Mysteries of the Ministry of Magic. So why did a similar stone arch appear here at the beginning of the new semester? Was this stone arch specially built by the school, or was there some other reason? Maureen was pondering this, while other students had never heard of the origin of the stone arch. They were all guessing what this strange building was used for. It was not until Professor Francis at the gate of the castle threatened everyone with a gloomy voice that everyone dared not stay and entered the castle honestly. James, do you know what the stone arch outside the castle is about? Maureen saw James and Albus talking loudly, and asked when he passed by them. I don't know, man, but I just heard that this stone arch suddenly appeared on the slope outside the castle 2 days ago. You heard it right. It broke out of the ground. Want some quick-acting skipping candy? Maureen, this is version 4.1. James waved to Maureen with a bunch of skipping candy in his hand, ready to sell some before the freshmen were sorted. No, thank you. Maureen shook his head. They sell skipping candy as soon as the school starts, and they really don't stop for a moment. Lily frowned at her 2 brothers who were not doing their jobs. Mom will be mad. As long as you don't tell on them. They have lived in Weasley's wagon for a whole summer vacation. To be honest, I wanted to live in my father's shop for a day but was kicked out. Hugo was very regretful. The 3 of them found an empty seat and sat down at the long table of Gryffindor. The new students just walked in and prepared for the sorting. But today all the students' attention was focused on the noise from the Forbidden Forest and the stone archway that suddenly appeared on the slope outside the castle, so they paid less attention to the new students. Inheritance. That door hides the magical inheritance of the 4 founders of Hogwarts. Toby came over and said mysteriously, I just heard from Mosby. Mosby heard from Bibower. Bibower heard from Otis's father, and his father heard from a staff member of the Ministry of Magic who cannot reveal his name, that the stone archway hides the inheritance clues of the 4 founders of Hogwarts. Inheritance? That's great, but I'd rather fill my stomach first. Hugo lay on the table, touching his stomach, and seemed to have no interest in the so-called inheritance. Have the people from the Ministry of Magic come to test it? Did they come to any conclusion? Maureen was not very interested in the so-called inheritance. He didn't think it was the inheritance left by the 4 founders, but it must have some connection with the stone archway in the Department of Mysteries. No, it is said that the people from the Department of Mysteries came to check. This news was sealed tightly and no one was allowed to know, but some news still leaked out. People from the Department of Mysteries? As expected. Maureen was not surprised at all. This strange stone arch suddenly appeared in the school, exactly the same as the door of the Department of Mysteries. It would be strange if the people from the Department of Mysteries did not come to find it. Toby said excitedly, think about it, the inheritance of the 4 founders, what a tempting thing, there must be something magical left behind. Professor Flitwick signaled everyone to be quiet. The Sorting Hat was already singing a new song. Unfortunately, everyone didn't care much about the mysterious hat. They cared more about the inheritance of the founders of Hogwarts. Do you believe in the inheritance, Maureen? Lily asked beside him. Why do you ask that? Maureen touched Doy's head. Doy was also lying on the table board, as if waiting for dinner. Lily said with a look of longing, you know, Slytherin left a secret room, which was opened when my father was in school. Everyone said that the other 3 founders were very likely to leave their own secret rooms, maybe waiting for the real descendants to open it. What you said is possible. This castle is full of secrets. Maureen did not deny any possibility. He wanted to write a letter to ask Arnold, but unfortunately Arnold had never replied to Maureen since he left in a hurry during the summer vacation. Maureen did not think about the stone archway anymore, because the freshmen were being sorted. He waved to Anrin in the crowd, and Anrin looked very nervous. Anrin. Briar. Professor Flitwick had already called Anrin's name. Anrin timidly stepped forward and put on the patched and wrinkled sorting hat on her head. What house do you hope Anrin will be sorted into, Maureen? Hugo asked. The latest novels are first published on the 69th book bar. Gryffindor, it's best to be in the same house as us, Maureen said. But the Sorting Hat had already announced the result, Ravenclaw. The students on the Ravenclaw side applauded enthusiastically. And Ran looked a little disappointed. She glanced at Maureen and then walked towards the long table on the Ravenclaw side. Oh, she was sorted into Ravenclaw, Hugo said regretfully. Maureen looked at Ran's back and nodded thoughtfully. Actually, Ravenclaw is not bad either. Maureen touched his nose and thought it was okay. The sorting ceremony did not take long, but Hugo felt like 10,000 years had passed. His stomach was growling all the time, and he watched the number of freshmen decrease one by one. He was not even in the mood to applaud the freshmen who were sorted into Gryffindor. He just patted the table weakly with one hand as a welcome. After the last Harper James was sorted into Hufflepuff, Hugo's eyes lit up. When he was about to pick up his knife and fork, Principal McGonagall had already stood up. Welcome, freshmen. You have just arrived at Hogwarts, and there are many things you need to pay attention to. This is a castle full of magic, so only by abiding by the school rules can you better integrate into school life. Let me say a few words. Principal McGonagall began her welcome speech. Oh no. I forgot there's this part. Hugo's eyes dimmed in despair. I hope Principal McGonagall will really just say a few words. But many times when someone tells you I will just say a few words, it is often not simple. At least to Hugo, Principal McGonagall said about 20,000 words. It seems that not many people read this book anymore. I don't know whether to quote it. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.